Well, hello everybody. How are you doing this fine day or weekend? I'm not really sure. I don't know when this video is coming out. I got a little bit of a story to tell you. Earlier this week, I was walking down the street and I passed a gas station and there was some little like crackhead sitting up against the wall. He approaches me and he says, "Hey, suck your dick for crack money." And I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, hold up. That's just not necessary. I got crack right here. We can cut out the middleman entirely." But you know what? You helped me make a Warhammer video. And he was like, yeah. So here we are.
Wait, I'm the crackhead? Hold on. I'm a well-standing citizen. I pay my taxes.
You're not a crackhead. All right, you're a crack whore. It's totally different.
Okay.
Anyway, welcome everybody. This is Buster McTunder. I'm gonna have trouble not pronouncing the TH in that word. Welcome.
That's
to the
fine.
channel.
Everyone does.
And we're gonna talk some Warhammer today. So, welcome, Buster McTunder.
I am welcomed.
Just introduce yourself in case people who are watching don't know who you are.
I'm Buster McTunder. I guess you can call me Buster without the H. I'm here to be a delegate for Warhammer, even though most Warhammer fans hate me. But I figured I would come here and speak on their behalf anyways, so they have more to complain about, because that's what they really like to do.
Hey, bro, man, they can get in fucking line. They're not gonna like me either.
Yeah.
So, most of my people who watch know this already. I know shit about Warhammer. Last time people told me to do a video about some stuff that I didn't know about, I made a Warframe video, and it did not go over particularly well. So, this time...
That's why I have avoided Warframe.
I decided to bring in an expert on Warframe so that we can have a proper conversation about it. And I have a bunch of characters here written down. Some of them are characters that you've chosen. Some of them are characters that I've chosen. And we're going to essentially talk for, I guess, as long as we want to. We're going to bring up the characters, talk about how they would do in Warhammer. And then once we're satisfied that we've basically covered the character, we'll move on to the other. There's no way in hell we're going to cover every single character here. It's not happening. But yeah, so that's what we're doing today. I figured, since I'm already pretty well versed in Doomguy, and you have mentioned that you intend on doing Doomguy in the future, I figure we'll start with Doomguy, and that's probably going to be the character that most people want to actually see talked about in this video anyway. He's sort of the big one.
The one I'm working on, he is definitely the thumbnail. Like, that's definitely a character that, like, you want to put up in front and center.
It's so strange, because he's a character that's equally underpowered and overpowered by basically every single person that talks about him. like you have people that are like, he's Christ, and then you have people who are like, dude, he just uses a fucking shotgun. Like, he can't do shit. It's like, find a middle ground, guys. Like, seriously. But so basically, I guess how we're gonna do this is we're just dropping Doomguy into this world, and like, what the fuck would he do if he got here? And I suppose obvious thing, he'd probably go after the demons, right? Like, he's not gonna start fucking with Warhammer 40K. I mean, Space Marines and shit.
To my understanding, I don't know if Doomguy really has any moralities outside of kill demons, or I guess kill heaven too. Like, kill anything that is like harming humanity in some way. So it would probably be everything that isn't the Imperium, although I don't know how much he jives with the Imperium either, because the Imperium are also like fascist dickbags. But yeah, he would probably go for Chaos first, although it's a tricky one, and it's the one that sucks with Chaos in all Warhammer stuff, and is even an issue for like when I went over Guardians of Destiny, or like even like Ben 10 and shit, is that like the thing about the Chaos Gods is, and like Chaos Demons en masse for the most part, because like the smaller demons, even like the regular ass whatever demons you see running around on the battlefield, are technically like little tiny fragments of the entire Chaos God. So if the Chaos God still exists, those tiny little demons are going to exist too. But the thing with Chaos and the Chaos Gods is that they are like intangible aspects of the reality that they exist in. Like, they exist in a sub-dimension of the universe where they kind of do whatever they want, and time doesn't really matter, and it doesn't exist, and all this other wacky bullcrap is going on, and it's kind of impossible to kill the Chaos Gods without killing literally everything across existence for good.
They're conceptual beings, is what you're saying. They're basically
Pretty much.
They are the concept.
Because they feed off emotions and stuff. So, like, Khorne, obviously, blood for the blood god, skull for the skull throne. Dude just likes murder, but he also likes self-improvement. Like, if you go to the gym and you work out, you're feeding Khorne, you know? Someone like Tzeentch is all about change and plans. So if you, like, plan out, like, an 8 square mile block in your city because you're trying to build homes for the homeless, you're empowering Tzeentch, even if you're doing something good. Like, they're not necessarily evil, but they, like, take these emotions or things that you're doing that could be good or well-meaning, and they twist them to be, you know, chaotic, to be evil in that way.
So, well, one thing that I think really works out when it comes to this particular conversation is that Doom, the newer Doom games, 2016 and Doom Eternal, are very, very heavily inspired by Warhammer. So, possibly even the original game. I've actually never looked that up, but clearly the new games are very heavily inspired. But basically, because of this inspiration, a lot of the powers sort of transfer over very well. The demons in Doom actually work very similarly to what I've heard the Warhammer demons work. Like, they are also timeless beings. They are also sort of just infinite. Like, if you kill them, they'll just keep coming back again and again and again and again. Their souls will go to hell. They'll be rebuilt. They'll come back. They're just sort of like a factory of constant demons, as well as the corruption that will constantly infect you. Now, one part that I think they brought over a little bit, but not necessarily, is the part where you're saying that they're concepts. Now, in Doom, Hugo Martin has stated that Doomguy cannot be killed. Well, basically, okay, so there are things in Doom called primevals, and they're essentially, they're not necessarily gods, but they are primal forces that control some sort of force within the Doom multiverse.
Yeah.
Davith was a primeval, and Doomguy is a primeval, and primevals are not capable of being killed. Can't die. However, Doomguy has the ability to kill primevals. That is something that he can do. And he was brought upon into the universe. Now, the lore, the game, this is where a lot of people get confused, states that Davith created him, but that's not true. Hugo Martin has actually said this. Davith did not create him. Davith just chose someone out there to do this thing, and Doomguy was the guy who came up and did it. Doomguy just came into existence because his presence was required in the Doom multiverse. He is a primeval. He just came into creation because his presence needed to be there. So, and he is solely designed to stop the demons and kill the Primarchs that are causing all sorts of problems to, you know, the multiverse and breaking it apart and doing all this kind of shit. So he's capable of killing Primarchs that are usually incapable of being killed. I don't know how well that would translate over into Warhammer 40K and killing actual conceptual beings. Probably not, because I don't think that Davith is a concept. He's a purpose. He's there to do a specific task, and as long as that task needs to be done, he can't die. But Doomguy essentially can overcome that rule of the universe, but basically. And like, for instance, I don't know if you've played the Doom games, but at the end of Doom Eternal, after Davith is killed and the demons are wiped out and everything's pretty much done, Doomguy just passes out. And some people mistakenly believed that this was because Davith was killed and he was a creation of Davith. No, again, the creator of the game, Hugo Martin, has said it's because his purpose was fulfilled. He had nothing else to do, so he just sort of passed out into a coma. He will come back, and the universe needs him again to rebring balance and peace to the multiverse. So that's basically where what Doomguy is he just has a singular purpose and drive to essentially kill evil within the multiverse and keep the multiverse at peace at all times. Problem, I think, when it comes to the transition to Warhammer 40K, I don't think there's anybody who's peaceful in Warhammer 40K. Might have to wipe out everybody.
That's the whole thing, and this is something I've talked about, and I have a whole video about it coming out, like in a week from now or whatever, but, at least from recording. But, like, the whole concept of grimdark, of, like, the general setting and aesthetic that the Warhammer universe is in, is that everything sucks, all the time, and it never changes. It's entropy incarnate. Like, everything just sucks. It's stupid. Everything is dumb and gay all the time, everywhere, forever. So it's like if you have something like Doomguy, where his only purpose is to continue fighting and keep going on until peace is like resolved, and you have a universe like Warhammer, where the only purpose of the universe is to be in constant stagnation and decay and war and fuckery, you kind of like throwing those two together is just throwing like a really, really fast bullet train at a mountain. You know, like, you can go in there and you can try for a hell of a long time. There are characters in Warhammer that are doing the same thing. Like, there's multiple characters of like Grey Knights who are demon hunters and stuff. There's one of them, I forget his name, but he's like super, one of their named characters is just off in the warp, which is their version of hell. And for 10,000 something years, he's just been fighting in some random corner, and it's done basically nothing. And I think Doomguy in the Warhammer universe is probably much the same. No, Khorne is the big chaos god.
No, not him. There's a character that has almost an identical name to his. I think it's Karn. And he's like a guy in Warhammer who's been cursed that he has to continue fighting or else he'll drop dead, basically. I think his name is Karn.
I think... you're talking about the World Eater, I think.
I don't know. I thought it was Khorne.
So that's a chaos dude. He is one of Khorne's. Okay. He's a chaos space marine, essentially.
Okay, yeah. Someone told me about him, and that he was, and I always get their names confused. I'm like, there's Khorne and there's Karn. I used to call Khorne Karn for a long time, and
yeah. But you have there's so many. There's Karn. There's Khorne. There's Kane. There's Kaldor. There's so many. You know, it's a series has gone on for 40 years. There's so many repeat names.
It's a clusterfuck. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least it's not like Game of Thrones.
Yeah, but I think that's where you end up with Doomguy, where it's like you can throw him in there and he will try, but he's going to be trying until the heat death of the universe.
Okay,
you know?
Well, how about the idea that again, a lot of this. So the lore in Doom is strange because a lot of the most important information has come from the creator of the game, not the lore itself, because Hugo Martin specifically has said on multiple occasions that he created the lore in order for it to not be the full, like, created it to be interpretive. So, like, you'll get certain codexes that contradict with other codexes in the game. Like, codexes are supposed to tell you what the fucking game's about. But like,
it's very mythological. Yeah, and that's exactly how Warhammer is, and it's done on purpose by this point. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, after 40 years, it's like Star Wars, where like you have 40-something years of random books written by like a slew of different authors, and there's even like a couple years ago when they were doing, I think it was 9th edition, and they were like refreshing the Necrons, who were like the robot skeleton Terminators. They came out with 2 books by 2 different authors around the same time. Now, both books talk about Necron society and culture. Both books contradict each other. So it's like there's a very obvious, intentional choice to have these kind of stories be interpreted by the reader, and you kind of find somewhere in the middle that is your truth. Because like in Warhammer, it's stated a lot, everything is true, or everything is canon, nothing is true. Which basically means, you know, everything is real, but also nothing. Because it's also supposed to be interpretive to the player, so you can have things like, if somebody goes and buys a $300 box of Space Marines, they can paint them however they want, and they can say, no, these are real Space Marines, they were just in the corner over here doing their own thing. They had nothing to do with the main plot. And the universe is a lot like D&D in that way, where it's set up specifically to be interpreted and put in the hands of the players in a lot of ways. And that makes the lore, when you're trying to do stuff like this, very wish-washy, because there are things that state, like the chaos, there's sources you'll find that say the chaos gods have mortal forms and you can kill them, and then other ones that say they're just entirely, you know, manifestations of emotion, and there is no real way to get rid of them, even if you did, you know, destroy the universe as you know it.
I'll tell you this, as someone who used to write professionally and made money off of it and enjoys writing, and is a big story guy, that shit is fucking infuriating to me.
If you're trying to tell a narrative,
it's like,
it
Jesus
is
Christ.
But for like a setting, which Warhammer is, it's like Star Wars or D&D by now, where it's like, it is more so the setting that exists in rather than the
it's not a
overarching
story.
narrative.
It's not there's actual novels and stuff that do tell stories, but like they want the world.
Like you could tell a story within Warhammer, but it's not a Warhammer story.
I think that works better, like what is essentially a board game or a tabletop game, rather than Doom. That is a fucking video game. Yeah. It has a like it has an actual story.
There's a Doom board game out there. I see it at my local store all the time.
Oh man, it's rough. But well, anyway, so Hugo Martin has stated this. So, like, it's very interpretive, so it's kind of hard to crack things down. But basically, the way that Hugo Martin has talked about it is that Doomguy gains power with every person he kills, and his power is entirely based on whatever he wills himself to do.
Yeah.
So essentially, if he wills himself to accomplish a goal, he then becomes powerful enough to accomplish that goal. So Doomguy kind of becomes a difficult person to even talk about, because it's like, can he kill
his power,
Chaos Gods? Yes.
His power is just I am, therefore I am. Like
it's he's literally designed and written to be a character that can overcome literally any challenge, despite how powerful it is. So even you can have like really hardcore and annoying scalers come in. I have an ongoing war with scalers, and and they'll say like, oh well, this is the most he's ever done, therefore that's all he can do. And then you'll have the people who are really heavy in the lore and the universe, and the story people who are like, I mean, yeah, that's all he's ever done so far, but we know he can literally do anything. Like, that's a part of his power system. He's only had to do that because that's the strongest he's needed to be to accomplish whatever goal he's accomplished. So this conversation essentially becomes fucking impossible to come to an actual conclusion of, other than if you read the Doom lore straight up and you read the Warhammer lore straight up, Doomguy will eventually adapt to their contextual powers and kill them. Like, if you can literally do anything, if you're essentially Jesus Christ, would be what you have to do. But there's no way you could say that and that be a satisfying conclusion to this conversation. It's just sort of fucking chaos. But I do think if Doomguy's whole purpose is to protect the innocent and to keep peace within a universe, what does that look like in a universe that doesn't have innocent people?
Oh, Warhammer, it's universal genocide. Like,
but that doesn't. Would he just essentially like not do anything? Like who?
He might just never wake up, or like he would have like insurmountable, because it's like
until there's an innocent person to protect.
Delete, because there are no innocent people in war. Even like the nicest people, like my favorite Space Marines are the Salamanders, who are like the good ones, and it's like they're good because they protect other humans and stuff, but they're still super xenophobic. If they see an alien baby, they will burn it in the cradle. You know, like they're not good people; they're just good to humans, unlike other Space Marines.
What about the average asshole who's just like going to work and stuff? Like, not a Space Marine, just a civilian. Are there good civilians in this universe?
The way, because it's grimdark and everything has to suck all the time, the Imperium of Man is hyper-fascist. They have a thing, this idea called the Imperial Cult, which is basically, you believe in everything we believe in, you believe in the God Emperor, you exist to serve the Emperor and the Imperium, and if you don't, you die. Like, there are people who, like, say they're soldiers if they're fighting in the front line, if they're fighting the good fight. If someone stands up and steps one, like, singular step backwards because they're trying to set themselves up for something else, and it looks like if their commanding officer gets the whiff that they might want to turn around and walk back, they will just get shot on the spot. And other soldiers will also shoot them and turn them in, like they're taught to do that. Or even if you're just like Smo Joe working in a factory.
Yeah, there are things... That was the law of Russia during World War II. That was, they
take all the worst parts of everything that's ever existed. But like, even if you're just like Smo Joe at the factory, they have things in place specifically to like weed out the like undesirables in their society, where it's like, hey, if Joe at the factory starts talking about, if you ever hear him say that he doesn't believe in the God Emperor, turn him into your local inquisitor today. You know, like, they're so deeply ingrained in this culture of just straight up indomitable fascist regime. Like, the closest you get to kindness is like, I guess they kind of work together as humanity because they kind of have to, but like, there's no real like good people outside of maybe like children if you want to go to that extent, but it doesn't last very long.
So then the question would become, like, if there's one innocent person in the Imperium, if there's one innocent orc, if there's one innocent person in any one of these factions, technically, Doomguy
has a purpose.
Arise. He would have a purpose in order to. So he should come, and then if you could find one,
but that's also if that one person doesn't die within a couple of years.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously there would be more than one. If there's one, there's more than one. But I'm saying, like, if there's any sort of group or anything, because I mean, humans are wiped out for the most part in Doom Eternal. Like, they say at the beginning of that game, like 70 or 80% of all.
Well, like the whole world's on fire.
Is wiped out. So, like, there's barely just remnants of humanity, and he still like tries to kill the demons and stuff. So as long as there's somebody,
that would be. So this is another thing. This is something I don't remember even looking into or ever coming up when I was looking into Doom. But like, how can he travel? Like, I know he's got like that big moon base, but like, can he travel intergalactically?
With the moon base, yeah. So there's a portal. He basically has an AI that is also used to be God. It's a long story. Who basically teleports him to anywhere in the multiverse he wants to go, and it's tied to forgetting the name of his fucking satellite. That's something of Doom. Obviously, it's gonna have Doom in the name. I'm forgetting the name.
Temple of Doom, Cathedral of Doom.
It's not the Temple of Doom. I'm forgetting what it's called, but it was. I'm gonna remember after we're done filming.
Yeah.
But it's some kind of Doom thing, and it's basically they can open up a portal across universes. However, for certain places in the lore, like for instance at the end of Doom. No, was it Doom 2? It might have been Doom 1. At the end of I think it was the original Doom. He was able to escape hell and come back to Earth. And then in Doom, at the end of Doom 2016, he's actually trapped in hell. And at the beginning of Doom Eternal, he also is back on Earth. So he's been shown to be able to escape into multiple universes. We don't know how it does it, but we do know he can very casually jump from universe to universe using that temple. Like, he can be on Earth, like he can be in hell, and then the temple that's in Earth, I'm calling it a temple, it's not a temple. The flying fucking Doom spaceship can be by Earth. He can be in hell, and it can open up a portal from hell to a totally different universe where Earth or hell isn't at. Basically, that ship does not have to be in the same universe he's in to make him go anywhere he wants to go.
He doesn't have to be on the ship to teleport with it?
No. He is intrinsically tied to the ship, and they can open up portals literally across the entire multiverse, and he could just travel back and forth across any dimension.
But does it travel like just to hell, or like can he, if he wanted to, just like open a portal to Venus?
It seems like he needs. Wait, what do you?
Or like, do we go back to Mars in Doom Eternal? I don't remember.
No. Well,
like I know you go into hell, like you shoot Mars with the 10,000, but
I beat Doom Eternal like 3 times, and I'm forgetting if there was a Mars level or not. You did. I know you go to Earth, you go to hell. I want to say there is one Mars mission.
Because I know you shoot a hole into Mars, like that's the meme. Like you can't just shoot a hole into the side of Mars.
Well, when you go in, that's true. But when you go into the like actual center inside of Mars, and then you could go to a portal, and it brings you. Yeah. So I guess technically, you do go to Mars, but I don't think you ever go on the surface of Mars. So yes, technically you shoot a hole into Mars, and then you launch yourself into the center of Mars. So yes, you go to Mars.
Yeah, in a very roundabout way.
You're in the core. It's literally called Mars Core. So yeah, I remember. That would be considered going to Mars. I was trying to think of like if you went back to like the Mars base, but no, you just blow a fucking hole in the planet and then drop down. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But no.
Main thing for me for that is that like traveling in Warhammer is a big thing, because like the way that their spaceships are set up is that it can take. It can take anywhere from a few weeks to multiple, if not thousands of years to travel from one place to the other, because they travel through the warp where time doesn't really exist, so it kind of gets fucked up. Like that's how the Tau are a thing, like the aliens with the Gundam suits, is that they were found, a warp storm went over their entire planet when they were cavemen, and then 6,000 years later their planet got shot back out and they had Gundam suits, and everyone was like, oh my god, Jesus fucking Christ.
Okay, so this is sort of another thing where Doom and Warhammer are very similar. There's no warp, but hell is a timeless place. and when you go there, time acts funny. So the whole concept of the game of Doom 2016, you don't know this in Doom 2016 because you don't find out until Doom Eternal, but basically Doomguy in Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal is the same Doomguy that was in the original Doom games. Yeah. And basically what happened was they actually re-released Doom 64 with a totally different ending. It was basically him escaping hell and going back to Earth, or not Earth, but going back to basically just escaping hell. They don't say where he goes to, but he eventually lands on Sentinel Prime and the Sentinel Prime homeworld, and that ends up being like we don't know how much farther in the past, but way before the events that happened on Earth happened. So Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal are actually technically remakes of Doom 1 and Doom 2. However, you're going through those events again as the same character who's reliving them, but now history's fucked up because demons met the makers and they decided to create Argent Energy and do a bunch of fuck shit, and now you have like super powered versions of all the demons and angels and gods and all this shit that wasn't there before because Doomguy introduced the demons to the con maker. So the whole traveling through time sort of thing, it's something that I don't know if Doomguy can necessarily control how he does it, or if he does it, he's shown to be able to do it. He can go into hell and then come out of hell at a different time period entirely. So I don't know how that would work.
It sounds less like he was controlling it, and more so that time travel was a vehicle to bridge the gap between the old games and the new games.
Oh, we do know that characters can do that kind of stuff, but it's sort of like it wouldn't make a difference if he time traveled or not, so he doesn't have a reason to. So the demons are timeless beings. So like there's multiple instances in the game, but essentially how I like to describe it is that if you see a demon today and then you go back in time yesterday and then re-see that demon will remember you from the day that hasn't happened yet. They don't view time in like humans do, like they're just timeless beings. So even if he did go back in time all the way to before the demons attacked Earth, it wouldn't make a damn bit of difference. The demons would still be there. They'd still be doing the same shit they're doing. Their existence within the universe essentially just fucks up time altogether. Like they're just sort of these. It's complete fabricated bullshit, like lore shit. But it's just like that's kind of how they work. So the whole time shit becomes. It's a crazy shit, but.
It's a big can of worms.
But yeah, it's open up a massive. So if the problem is traveling, if he has his fucking Temple of Doom shit again, it's gonna fucking kill me. I can't think of it. If he has
the Doom Fortress, I thought it was called like just
Fortress of Doom. Is that what it is? Is it Fortress of Doom?
It may be.
Fucking go with it, dude. It's late. It's
Fortress of Doom, yeah.
I think that's right. You said
I had Google open. I don't know why I didn't look it up.
You said Fortress, and it clicked. Yeah, okay. So, Fortress of Doom, and if he has the Fortress of Doom, he could essentially go wherever he wants instantly without any issues. If he doesn't have the Fortress of Doom, he doesn't have that capability, and he's going to have to go there. Now, luckily for him, completely immortal, and he's never going to die. So if it does take him thousands of years to get anywhere, he'll still get there. It'll just take a lot longer.
An important thing with Warhammer as well is like supply lines and shipping times. Because say like you have a planet that's being invaded, whether it's orcs or Tyranids or chaos demons or literally whatever, and they're like, hey, we're getting fucked over, we need reinforcements, and they send that communication through back to, whoever. When by the time they send reinforcements, it could have been a week, it could have been a month, it could have been 7 years, and that planet is entirely gone. So that is kind of a advantage for Doomguy in the sense that if he can instantaneously go anywhere at any time, he gets a huge leg up on pretty much everyone in the galaxy.
Well, I mean, technically, if he has the Fortress of Doom, if he really wanted to, he could teleport directly in front of fucking Chaos God Korn, straight up fight him. If he really wanted to, that would be because he has unlimited access for the most part, especially by the end of the games. A little bit of an issue and plot details where I don't think he has trouble that he can't get to the Maker homeworld because it's like locked off or some shit. But he eventually solves that issue, and then the entire multiverse just opens up and it's free for him to teleport wherever he wants to. So he sort of gets rid of that weakness in that game. But Yeah, if that's the case, he can literally teleport in front of everyone. And I honestly think that the only person who's really going to be able to fight with him are the Chaos Gods. I don't think anyone else is really be able to do anything. Not that I've heard.
The only characters that could stand up are like the Elder Gods were technically like supposedly on close to the same power level as the Chaos Gods, but they're pretty much dead, effectively. And then the God Emperor, he is like, this is a big long-standing theory within 40k that's been around for like 2 decades or so, is that like the God Emperor is like the 5th Chaos God, he just hasn't fully ascended yet. And like he's probably the only other one who could hold a candle to that level of strength. But
isn't he? I've heard he's a good guy. He's a good guy, and then
he's a good guy if you're human, technically, kinda.
Okay, all right.
It's Warhammer, so everything sucks.
I got you. So a friend of mine told me that basically what happened was that the Emperor of Mankind did not want to be worshipped like he is, and become like a god, and then they just started worshiping him, and he made him this sort of like thing that they were killing people for, and he's like, bro, I didn't want you guys to do this at all. And then that's
also the thing where he's like, don't worship me, even though I'm 14 feet tall, I have a literal burning halo above my head, and I have a glistening golden suit of armor, and I call myself the God Emperor of Mankind. And it's less so that like he didn't want to be worshipped, but he didn't want there to be worship for the Chaos Gods as well, because that's before everything goes to shit during like the era of like the Horus heresy and stuff. The reason one of his sons, Horus, has a heresy to begin with is because he discovers the Chaos Gods, and he discovers that like the Emperor was lying and like hoarding this power, because the Emperor was like siphoning powers from the Chaos Gods and keeping them to himself. And not telling anyone about it.
Subconsciously or not subconsciously, he was sort of trying to replace the Chaos Gods, but without...
A little bit. Like, he was just trying to take over the universe, basically, like the galaxy.
Okay, so not a good... I was
like,
told
he's like
a
good guy, and he's got, like, if you're talking about, like, as so far in as humanity and humanity's expansion and everything, like, he's, like, good, like he's very much like a Julius Caesar like type figure, where it's like he wants the empire to grow and be this massive galaxy spanning thing, but the ways he goes about that and the ways he deals with certain things, that's why like they say that like all 20 of the Primarchs have daddy issues, because he's just awful to every single one of them, even the ones that like really really adore him. The
Primarchs
like,
are the children of the Emperor of Mankind?
They're his 20 genetically manufactured children. The special ones. And then all the Space Marines are based on those 20 children. That's how you get 20 different legions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Technically 18 because 2 of them got genocided, but...
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so what do you think the odds are that they start worshipping Doomguy once he goes on his killing spree? Because that's what ended up happening in Doom Eternal, is that people actually started seeing Doomguy as the new god. They actually started viewing him as god. So if he starts going off and wiping them out by, like, literally the billions and trillions, which is what he did to the demons, is it possible that he could essentially supplant someone like the God Emperor of Mankind?
So it depends on what he does specifically as far as, like, killing everything, because there are a couple things. I think the Orcs would adore him. They would probably really, really enjoy him. Everyone else, the Imperium, maybe?
I think Khorne would fucking love him.
Khorne would love him for sure. Khorne, he would also feed Khorne immensely. Like, Khorne would be fucking gluttonous by the time Doomguy was done.
That's kind of the same. Well, we know that Doomguy gets stronger with every kill as well. So yeah. I don't know.
And the harder you fight, the stronger Khorne gets. So theoretically, that's just a stalemate.
It wouldn't. Yeah, they would both just have limitless power.
Yeah.
If Doomguy can will himself to be as powerful as he needs to be in order to defeat his enemy, and Khorne.
So the more he wills himself, Khorne would just, get juiced up on it.
They'd both always be equal.
Yeah.
It would essentially just fight forever in fucking hell. Like the universe would end with every single person dead that could possibly die, and then just Khorne and Doomguy fighting.
They would be locked in the most intense arm wrestling match you've ever seen, and the second either one of their arms hits the table, the universe explodes. Because you can't contain that level of energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, This is an eternal stalemate, and the second this stalemate ends, everything goes with it.
That's fucking stupidly. That's stupid.
It's very Doom and it's very Warhammer, and that's basically the only way you can approach it. But as far as things worshipping him, like, maybe if he's killing only, if he's not fighting humanity, and just going after everything else, there are probably parts of the Imperium that would either see him as a reincarnation of the Emperor, maybe, or people that might start to worship him, although that would just start like either like a civil war, or those people would just start getting shot at by the Imperium because they're not following the creed. Yeah, they would get inquisitored right away.
Like,
you know,
it'd be like Jews and Catholics.
Yeah, you'd have a Spanish Inquisition right away. You would none of them would be allowed to exist.
Okay, so we've come to a conclusion that Khorne and Doomguy are just gonna fucking stalemate. What about the other Chaos Gods and the Emperor of Mankind? Can he wipe them out? His I have no limit to my power will bullshit.
So the other ones, I mean, maybe Nurgle, because Nurgle's whole thing is death. Well, not necessarily, because his whole thing is also life. He likes living and like creating things. Like that's why he creates diseases. It's like the cycle of life and death. Slaanesh is excess. Doomguy, I would say, is definitely in excess. And Tzeentch would actually probably face the worst, because Tzeentch's biggest thing is change and constantly evolving. And Doomguy, I don't think has ever really evolved. He just double barrels and fists all the way.
Well, like he evolves by getting more powerful, but
but it's not, his strategy has not changed in 30 years.
I don't know. He hits weak points now. That's new. He didn't do that.
Yeah, he targets the shoulder pads now.
That's right. He never did that before. That's a new thing. You know.
Yeah.
Didn't kill gods before. But I mean, he's gone through some character development. It's
also the thing of like, so like, when Doomguy gets imprisoned, like, isn't that the whole thing where 2016 starts, where like the demons couldn't kill him? The best they could do is shove him in a sarcophagus and hope that he never wakes up.
Oh, kind of. They collapsed a temple on his head, and then once the temple was collapsed on his head, they basically cursed him and trapped him in a stone made of the temple itself that wrapped around his body and basically tied him in stasis, where he was tortured inside of a sarcophagus for all of eternity, or at least he was supposed to be. He was actually in there for billions of years. Well, we don't know if it's billions. They say that the sarcophagus is ancient, and they tried to date it, and it's like it goes back longer than they can possibly
It's some
date.
amorphous number of years.
It's a ridiculous amount of time that he was in this just being tortured, and then he gets up with that without any issues because he has like limitless fucking fatigue and shit. But so they dropped the temple on his head. But then when you play Doom Eternal and you realize just how powerful he is, you're like, it wouldn't work to this version of the character. Y'all made him way too strong in Doom Eternal for that to have ever worked on him.
Maybe. Because the thing I would see there, like, Tzeentch is like he's like the guy who like knows everything and has like a 1,700 point plan to get things done, right?
Oh,
like
so
it said, like,
it's like they're gonna do something similar.
Like, you can get into a fight with Tzeentch and like hit him across the face and his teeth will fall out and he'll go, "Thank you, that one had a cavity, I needed to get that one checked out," and then he'll run away. Like, that was part of his plan, was for you to knock his teeth out.
Everything,
you know what I mean? Like, it's
plan.
basically like he's fucking Palpatine. So like with Doomguy, you could come up some scenario, he figures out this way to create an even bigger temple to drop on Doomguy's head until it works, you know? And you kind of just run into like the same kind of argument of like, it's also like, can he kill the Chaos Gods? Or like, when it comes to something like Tzeentch, is he smart enough to get through like his endless labyrinth? I mean, he's got unlimited time, so I guess theoretically he could, but you run into like, we're stacking infinities on top of infinities, and it just gets so amalgamous and stupid to a certain point.
It gets pretty insane. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. So basically, he can wipe out the whole universe, but he stops at least one, possibly more than one Chaos God. That's basically where we're at with this one.
Yeah, I could see him maybe Slaanesh. Slaanesh is like the weakest, and like their whole thing is excess, which Doomguy is pretty accessible, like when it comes to like rage. But I don't know how Slaanesh could use that outside of just like putting him in. I don't know how he is with like mind control type stuff. Like Slaanesh could just make him think that he's murdering demons forever, but really he is just in another sarcophagus?
So that wouldn't work. Doomguy is stated to be incorruptible in body, mind, and soul. So he cannot. People scalers are going to say that this is what do they call it when it's a no limits fallacy or some shit.
Yeah.
But he's said to be completely.
It's basically just he can't lose.
Not that he can't lose, he's incorruptible.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? Like, Doomguy can't lose, and Warhammer can't be beat. Like, literally, like physically, it's designed in a way that you cannot beat the things that are there.
Yeah.
So it's like, we have immovable force, or unstoppable force, immovable object.
I may have some things on my list that might be able to beat it. We're gonna find out. I didn't pick, like...
If they're multiversal type stuff.
Yeah. Some of them. I didn't pick like the one above all for Marvel or some. I didn't want to like break the fucking conversation, but
it's like that kind of shit. Like that's where I had when I had talked about Ben 10 on my channel, where it's like Ben 10 hits his watch, he turns into Alien X, and then he remakes the universe without the Chaos Gods. Yeah, and it's like there you go, you're done.
Yeah,
that's it.
It's done. So
but it's like that's a much less interesting idea.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah.
Could they just be erased that easily? I mean, I guess if you can erase concepts, you can erase.
If you could erase the universe and remake it in his own image, then yeah.
Okay, well there you go.
Yeah, that easy. If only anyone in Warhammer had that power, like.
Yeah, well, you'd think without powerful people talk about how the Chaos Gods is, it's kind of insane that they don't have something as simple as existence, erasure, or creation, because that's like the god power. That's what all gods pretty much have.
The thing about the Chaos Gods as well is there's a big thing is that like they are like how powerful they are is not even explicitly stated. Like there's stuff that like infers that they are multiversal and stuff because they show up in Age of Sigmar as well, which is not connected to Warhammer 40K at all outside of sharing the company and the title, but they're set in two different universes, but the Chaos Gods exist in both because they are outside the bounds of reality. And like if you really wanted to stretch it, like technically any of the Chaos Gods could just win and take over the universe, but none of them want to win. They want the universe to be in a constant state of turmoil because that means they can just get fed, because like theoretically if the universe died, if one of them won and the universe stopped existing, they would all die. So they kind of just keep it going in this constant laundromat of random bullshit.
The universe is designed to be at a constant stalemate, so people just keep playing, and you never expect like.
Well, yeah, that too for the board game.
Yeah, like whole fucking factions are not. No faction is ever going to get wiped out completely. You won't want to use their fucking characters anymore. Like you won't want to use that faction. So
yeah, exactly.
They all have to fight forever.
You're telling me I have to spend $2,000 on toy soldiers that aren't even the most badass? Come on.
Yeah, they're not even fucking. I'm gonna throw these fucking toys away. I don't want.
Which is great because they have started scrapping armies, but that's a totally different topic.
So one more before we move on to another character. So if they can't defend against being erased from existence or things are recreated or whatever, Davith would be able to kill them. So because Davith created the multiverse, at least the multiverse as we know it. It's been said by Hugo Martin that there are actually other gods outside of here who are just as powerful, if not more powerful than Davith. But as far as everything that we are aware of in the Doom universe, Davith is the god of all that stuff. He created it all. At the end of Doom Eternal, I always say that he has truth manipulation, because what he does is he deems it to Doomguy that if he loses, it's a fair fight between him and Doomguy. If he loses, every demon that exists outside of Hell will be erased from existence. But if Doomguy loses, he's going to erase all of existence. He deems this to be truth. And then after he gets defeated, exactly what happens. All the demons outside of Hell get erased. But if Doomguy gets defeated, then he had the power to erase all of existence and recreate it.
Yeah.
So if he has the ability to do that, he would technically be able to defeat the Chaos Gods.
Yeah, I guess.
And Doomguy beat him.
Well, does Doomguy have his powers?
That's an excellent question. I don't think so. I don't think so.
That's the one.
That's the whole. Yeah, I don't think he has that type of. He can't create everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he can kill a dude who does it. I don't know. It's up in the air. So Davith might be able to win. Doomguy stalemates Chaos Gods forever.
Pretty much. Okay.
Stagnation. this brings up the next, since we're talking about concepts and all this kind of stuff. Have you ever read Chainsaw Man?
I have not. I'm a little bit familiar, but not super.
Okay, so just a quick explanation. We're going to talk about Denji from Chainsaw Man. So, basically, Chainsaw Man is a manga where there's devils. There's devils in the world, and the devils within the Chainsaw Man universe are all conceptual beings. Anytime even one person is afraid of something, it brings a devil into creation, and that devil's power is based on how many people are afraid of it, how high that fear is, and their powers are kind of based off of that. Denji actually is the Chainsaw Devil, and his fear is the fear that people have of him is based on people's fear of chainsaws, people's fear of him personally, people's fear of devils in general, and all of that raises his power. But Denji has this crazy, stupid ability where he can eat people, and their conceptual existence disappears. So in the manga, Nazis don't exist, nukes don't exist, and war almost doesn't exist because he ate the Nazi devil and the nuke devil. So not only does that erase the devil and the concept of Nazis, but it actually changes all of human history so that Nazis never existed to begin with. So he literally erases the entire concept from ever existing or ever had existed. So how would he do?
So, like, are these devils, like, are they just around or created, or, like, I don't know how...
As far as we're aware currently, they come into existence when the first person fears a thing. Fear for it exists, no matter how mundane, there will be a devil that is that, basically. There will be an embodiment of that fear. The more powerful fears are more powerful. So you have, they introduce a chicken devil, has no power whatsoever. It's literally just like a little talking chicken dude, and a teenage girl accidentally kills it by falling on it, fucking dies, and it's hilarious. Like, we have stupidly weak fucking demons like that, and then we have like the death devil and like devils that are like super fucking overpoweredly feared. And that's basically how it works.
So I think, because if it's based on fear, that doesn't necessarily apply to any of the chaos gods.
No, but it's not the fear that he's erasing. It's the concept of its existence. When he eats the Nazi devil, he doesn't just erase the fear of Nazis. He erases Nazis themselves from the entire timeline of ever existing.
Yeah, but like, there's nothing to be fearful of the chaos gods. Like, I guess maybe death from Nurgle, or like disease.
I would agree with you if it was the fear he's erasing, but he's not erasing the fear. He's erasing the concept itself. Like, he's erasing Nazis.
Well, I know, but you have to be like afraid of the concept for him to be able to like get rid of it. So, right?
No. Humans. Well, that's how demons come into form, sure, but they're still directly tied to concepts that are not necessarily fear. Fear controls their power levels. They're tied to the concept itself. Their power level is based on the fear, but as we see when they get erased, like, if they were only the fear, then their destruction would just get rid of the fear. It doesn't just get rid of the fear, it gets rid of the thing itself that you're afraid of. Like, Makima's whole plan in part 1 of Chainsaw Man is to use Chainsaw Man, giant spoiler if no one's read Chainsaw Man, is to use Chainsaw Man to basically have him eat a bunch of fucking devils she doesn't like and get rid of starvation and poverty and just literally everything that could possibly harm humanity. Just get rid of all of it by having him actually eat the devils that embody those concepts. So he's not just killing the fear off, he's literally killing the concepts. But the fear part, I'm not going to say it's completely irrelevant, it's like how they come into being. But it's
so, like, if he eats the devil of starvation, just nobody ever starves.
No one will ever starve. Starvation will not be possible. If he eats the death devil, no one can ever die from that point on, and no one will ever remember a time when people could die. And the actual, like, it'll be like death never existed for humanity since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
He literally eliminates the entire concept from existence. So
I mean, that's a powerful ability, but what's his, like, what is his, how is he able to deploy that ability? Like,
He eats them.
I know, but like how he would have to be very strong to eat like specific things, right?
So his power level is based on how much people fear him as an individual, chainsaws, and devils. So when he shows up to the universe, I think he's already going to be stronger than he is in his own universe because the Space Marines literally use chainsaw swords to kill him.
Oh, they love chainsaws. Yeah.
So, like, the
I don't know
fear
if it's
of chainsaws,
fear, though. I'm trying to think of, like... I don't know if that would empower
someone out there
him.
Is afraid of being chainsawed.
The regular people are afraid of
people.
the chainsaws. Yeah.
I think you can argue that there's a solid amount of Space Marines that are at least somewhat...
Space Marines don't know fear. Like, they're like Spartans. Like, they are like mentally and physically trained to be like unfearful of everything.
Let's say this. Let's say that your average person is afraid of chainsaws, right?
Yeah.
The Warhammer universe is significantly larger than
the line is literally untold billions. Like, there is no head count on how big the population is.
I would actually say untold billions is probably a low number. I mean, we're still on billions and we're one planet, so it's probably in the trillions or quadrillions.
It's very much trillions. That's just the line from the 80s, like the original like introductory.
Yeah, but so basically, if he's as strong as he is now, and he only has a billion people to be afraid of him, if you increase that number by untold amounts, he would get stronger because he would now have more people to fear him. So basically, the moment he drops in that universe, he should increase in power drastically by however many more people exist within Warhammer. In his own world, I mean, he's pretty strong. Like, without anyone even knowing who he is, he's capable of destroying whole buildings and shit like that. I mean, he's stronger than a Space Marine at very base. But eventually, it gets to the point where, like, he can rip his heart out, chuck his heart, and then have his body reform around his heart. He moves faster than people who see bullets traveling in slow motion. They can't see him moving, like, at all. Like, he just dashes through and just, like, kills, like, he kills small armies of other demons and devilmen and shit without them even be able to react to him. I mean, he takes on almost all of hell by itself and is able to in a fight against it. I mean, he's the gun devil who was thought to be the strongest devil for a long time. We now know there's way more. But when he was severely weakened and then made a fiend, which is a very weak version of a devil, he was able to destroy several city blocks in a single attack. And Devil Man is way beyond anything that is. So what his actual final strength is, I don't think it would be... Now, he's nowhere near planetary or anything like that, but I think if you increase the fear by the amount that you would be increasing it by just increasing the amount of people that exist in the universe, I think it would not be that difficult to get him up to a planet-destroying being if he existed within the Warhammer universe, because of just the amount of people that he had to now fear him. And from that point on, if he wanted to increase that fear by, or not wanted to, but just naturally did, by just murdering tons and tons of people, then it would just go up from that point.
But then he also has to contend with propaganda. Like, say, like, most regular people in the Imperium don't know that demons exist. Like, they are just straight up not told about chaos or demons. Because as soon as somebody gets an inkling of, like, demons whispering in their ear, if they, like, know anything about demons, they just get murdered. Like, they have the Space Marines that are specifically demon hunters. Like, they're men in black. Like, they have neuralizers and everything, the Grey Knights. If they show up and there's regular human beings there that have just been in the presence of demons, they will just murder them. So there's no knowledge of chaos out there whatsoever. So he would also have to be, like, even if he goes to a world and he slaughters an entire world of people, the knowledge of that would have to get through the incredible Imperial indoctrination and propaganda.
So basically, the only thing that he could really be count on is the people's fear of actual chainsaws, basically. If you're afraid of being sawed with a chainsaw.
Which, I'm curious about that, because, like, how does that fear work? Like, because I've used a lot of chainsaws in my day, and I feel like, is the fear of, like, that thought in the back of your head that goes, like, man, if this breaks, I'm fucked, I'm gonna lose a hand. Does that count as fear of a chainsaw, or is it, like, a phobia?
It doesn't have to be a phobia. I mean, most people don't want to get chainsawed. Like, there's a reason why chainsaws are used in horror movies. You have a general. It's like I shoot guns all the time, I'm not afraid of guns.
Yeah,
but it's
and
good
you
to
have like
healthy
you have thoughts
fear
like that
of
could be
guns.
bad. Yeah.
Well, no, it's not necessarily.
Okay.
It's just like it's called a healthy fear. It's like
Well, yeah,
don't point a gun at yourself even if you think it's unloaded. It's just because you're aware that could harm you. That wouldn't be if you had no fear of it whatsoever, like zero fear of it. It wouldn't matter. Like fuck it, go off. But
I get you.
There's something there. Like I said, I think he's going to get drastically more powerful when he enters the universe. I don't necessarily think he's going to get Chaos God powerful when he enters the universe, but I think he's going to get very powerful. And it's also important to note that he fought against War in the series in the past, and he didn't eat War completely. He ate a chunk of War off of her body. War's a chick, and because he ate that chunk, War basically hasn't existed for like 80 years in the Chainsaw universe. Like he just by biting it, he weakened the concept of War. He didn't erase it because you have to eat it fully, but he severely weakened War. And by biting it, not only did he weaken the concept, but the actual being of War, the character was severely weakened to the point that she was basically like a regular bullshit asshole demon that's like not very strong at all, despite being one of the strongest demons. So if he can get a bite off to a Chaos God, I don't know how hard their flesh is, but if he can get a bite off and he's strong enough to actually do damage, he could possibly weaken their concept just with that bite.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. It was like, so theoretically, like the most important thing, like we were talking about there, would be for him to hunt down a demon that is like the concept of propaganda. And just go that route.
Does that exist?
Or like imperialism.
Does that exist in Warhammer?
Propaganda?
The devil of the demon of propaganda.
No, the only demons that exist are the Chaos Gods, because all the smaller demons are just fragments of the main big Chaos God. But it's not a demon. I'm talking about like through the logic of like the Chainsaw Man universe.
Well, he's leaving the chain. That would exist, but he's leaving the Chainsaw.
If he's only in Warhammer, the only demons in Warhammer are the Chaos Gods.
It would be the Chaos.
He's not. I don't think he's getting very far.
You don't think he's going to be able to actually damage them at all, even if he?
No, because like. Again, you have that same thing as like all the other Chaos Gods. Like, if they even have a physical manifestation you can get to begin with. Plus, you have ones like Tzeentch who can basically just put you in a labyrinth for forever. I assume he's immortal as well, but
we don't. I think we know that he can't die. They said that devil men can't die. So, and he can also travel freely between hell and earth. So fiends can be killed. Devils can be killed temporarily because when you kill a devil, they go to hell, and if they die in hell, they come back to earth, and they sort of just kind of keep swapping. But devil men just straight up can't die. If you kill them on earth, you can do whatever you want to their bodies. A little bit of blood touching them will just bring them right back. They can't be killed. But he can freely travel back and forth. So. Yeah, you can trap him in a labyrinth forever. That would fix the problem. I don't know if Korn would necessarily like that because he's probably
if he can be. You can trap him in a labyrinth and just throw demons in there, and Korn would have a good time with it. He'll just fucking fight forever. Yeah, they would just set up like a fucked up game of football, and.
Yeah. So his power is incredibly useful, but his base stats just aren't enough for that.
His ability to deploy that power in a meaningful way, I feel.
Isn't gonna do shit.
It's like the thing. Like, I did this one where I was talking about Helldivers versus like the Gears of War universe and stuff like that, and comparing their armies. And a lot of people like brought up to me, it was like, well, they turned a planet into a black hole, and it's like, well, they took like a week and a half of landing on the planet and like injecting it in like to turn that planet into a black hole. Like if they went and they did that in like Warhammer. If it took them a week to turn a planet into a black hole, and they have to do that to every single thousands of planets, I don't know if they're going to be able to pull that off, because you got to go to each and every single one and sit there and do it manually. Like, it's a powerful ability, but your ability to pull it off by the time that whoever you're going up against can retaliate.
Yeah, like if he had the power of erasing concepts, he would need to have it in a way that's not just eating the person physically.
Yeah.
And he would also need some kind of form of omniscience so he can actually find them and get to them, or like the ability to do it across universal barriers or some shit. Like he would need more than that. And it doesn't really help against someone like like he doesn't. Conceptual Eraser is not going to do anything against the Space Marines. You could just kill them normally. It's kind of a wasted power for them. So
yeah, I don't know what concepts like. I delete the concept of like power armor or like soldiers. Maybe
no, it's not that. I mean, maybe we don't see that. It's only shown to work when he eats a conceptual being that is actually that concept. If just a piece of armor is not the concept of armor. It's just armor. He'll just eat the armor. It's not like everything. It's not like
like if he ate the concept of power armor. Like,
well, he would have to actually find a being that is that concept. It couldn't just be a being wearing the power armor. So it's just not a useful ability. It's only a useful ability if he can use it directly on the Chaos Gods, which he apparently cannot.
It would be really. I mean, like, there are guys in the Warhammer universe who have been looking for the Chaos Gods for like 10,000 something years or whatever. The entire history of 40K that we know, and they've not really come anywhere near close. Like, Doomguy gets the pass because Doomguy's power is no you, but I don't know if he would necessarily be in the same boat. It doesn't sound like it.
Yeah. We haven't even gotten into, which we probably, it's not going to really matter, but so Denji and Chainsaw Man are actually two different personalities. So Denji is a horny high school kid who just wants love.
That makes sense.
Very, very simple guy. Great character, actually. It's a lot more complicated than that, but at his most basic form, he's just a very sad, lonely guy who just wants love. But if he's totally fucking miserable, he has a deal with a devil that is like his best friend, and basically the deal is that he has the heart of the Chainsaw Devil inside of him, and that Chainsaw Devil wants to see Denji's life through his eyes because Denji was always such a happy guy. If Denji becomes just a miserable fuck, the Chainsaw Man comes over, and he has a totally different personality. He's just a force of chaos, death, and murder that just slaughters through everything. He's basically Doomguy without a conscience. He just fucking does anything. He's a force of chaos. He becomes chaos incarnate and just goes on a slaughtering rampage. In a place like Warhammer 40K, Denji's gonna get miserable pretty fucking fast.
Well, that's the tagline.
Yeah, and then Chainsaw Man will be there, and Chainsaw Man is not going to specifically target the Chaos Gods anyway. He's just going to go on a slaughtering rampage across whatever planet he's on.
Yeah, there's so many more satisfying. Like, the Orcs literally never stop. That'd be an interesting one, because the Orcs would try to copy him, so you'd see a lot of Orcs that would just, like, strap chainsaws to their arms. But
don't they have,
they'd be like, that's a good idea. You know?
Do they have, like, imagination powers where anything they imagine comes real?
It's very nebulous. And it's like, depending on how far you want to take it, is how far you go. Like, there are meme stories, like the tank one. But it's... A lot of the things they're imagining are actual things. So say, like, the Orcs used to be a species of alien called the Quark, which is basically an orc, but not stupid, and they were, like, 30 feet tall or whatever the fuck. Like, they were basically the Orcs on steroids. And the Quarks were super intelligent and everything, and basically all of their intelligence is, like, written into their DNA. So when Orcs are, like, building guns and stuff, technically, like, the Imperium has taken these guns and analyzed them and be like, these guns shouldn't work. Like, the parts that are here are not supposed to be in the composition that they're in. This gun should not fire without just exploding in your hands, and yet it fires, you know? And, like, the way they explain it is the Orcs have scientist in their DNA that allows them to just crumble a bunch of scrap metal together, and then boom, they have a gun. You know, like, it's so stupid, and you can either take it to the logical extreme of, like, I have a car, I put wings on that car, I put a propeller on the front of the car, now it's a plane. You know, like, it can get that stupid, or you can get more grounded with it, but for the most part, whatever they imagine becomes true in a way.
The way people have described it to me, I don't know if they're just wanking the universe of 40K, but they've just described it to me as they imagine something and it appears out of nothing. They basically can just create things, whatever they want. They're like Green Lanterns, but the thing they create stays there.
So the way that they imagine it becomes true, but it's not becoming true because they will it through like force of will. It's because it's like the universe aligns with them so that whatever they think becomes true. So say like in Warhammer, the orcs believe that the color red is the fastest. They believe if they paint their cars red, it'll go faster than a blue car. And if you look at the Warhammer universe on large, all of the fastest units on the tabletop and in lore, like the White Scars of the Space Marines, the guys who like to go fast, and like the Farsight Enclave of the Tau, are all painted red. All of the fastest units on the board game, at least how they're supposed to be painted on the box, are painted red. So it's like the universe, in a way, has aligned to fit in with orcish beliefs, and it kind of reinforces their mental stupidity.
Is unbelievably stupid. Because
it's so insane.
There's billions, if not trillions, of orcs. If you have one orc that believes that red's the fastest, and another orc that believes that blue is the fastest,
well, they have to agree.
So all orcs have to agree on the same thing.
All orcs have to agree on, like, for a long time.
Worthless power.
There was
get anyone to agree on anything.
Well, that's why it's said in a couple different places that orcs are unironically the strongest faction in 40k, but they're just too fucking dumb. They are so stupid that they cannot effectively deploy their power, essentially. Like, if they were any smarter, if they were 1% smarter, they could take over the galaxy. Because they've almost taken over the galaxy. When the Emperor was still alive, they almost beat the Emperor while he was alive, while they were stupid. So imagine them if they were smart.
I'll solve the problem right now. You take all the orcs and you say that, okay, we're going to take all the orcs that believe that the orcs are the most powerful force in the entire multiverse that can kill even the Chaos Gods. And we're going to take every other orc that doesn't believe that, and we're going to fucking kill them. And now, we become the most powerful thing in the entire universe, and nothing can stop us. Boom, we win.
You could try that.
Overnight.
Technically, the orcs do have their own Chaos Gods, but they don't really care about destroying anything. Like, if they took over the galaxy, they'd be sad. Like, part of the reason why they're stupid is because that kind of came true, is that they kind of conquered everything and they had nothing else to fight, so they just started fighting each other until they devolved into orcs.
Easy.
So it's like, they're very much like Chaos, where it's like they want something to fight,
Sound like a bunch of miserable cunts.
They have such a good time. They love fighting so much. That's like what they live for. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like, if they're not fighting, like, it's I think I forget where it was, there was a story of, like, orcs that, like, hadn't fought in, like, a couple weeks, and they're all walking around with, like, dragging their guns in the ground and, like, hanging their heads because they were, like, sad that they didn't have anyone to fight.
Oh, they're the Sadokar. Sadokar from fucking Dune. That's okay. So, total fucking tangent. In the book series Dune, there's the Emperor has this elite guard called the Sadokar. The Sadokar. I fucking read all the books. I'm gonna
whatever the complex name is.
Yeah, whatever it is. It's SAD, a bunch of other stuff. Sadokar. So, and basically what happens with them is the greatest fighters. They're basically Spartans. They're the greatest fighters ever. They love combat. It's awesome. Well, they're so fucking amazing that they destroyed all of the Emperor's, like, basically anything that was coming after the Emperor, and they had no one to fight. So the Emperor's like, look, here's this little planet over here. Go chill over there. When I need you, I'm going to call you guys.
Yeah.
For years and years, nothing happens. Then the Emperor goes, he's like, all right, I'm going to call these guys. Hey, guys, what do y'all... And then they just, like, created cults and started slaughtering each other, and they have, like, this weird fucked up blood rituals. Like, what the fuck did y'all do? And it's like, oh, we went mad because we didn't have anyone to fucking kill, so we just, like, we all just went fucking insane. So now the Sadokar are not only the greatest warriors of the entire galaxy, they're also fucking nuts. And they're just like into bloodletting and all this other weird freaky shit.
That's why orcs are, like, so dangerous if they're unified, because if they're not fighting each other, they're fighting you, and they're a greater threat when they're unified. So it's like, the first thing you want to do when you're fighting orcs is you want to take out the biggest one, so that the next two biggest ones will fight each other to try and become the biggest one. And then they'll devolve from there, and it'll kind of, like, cascade downwards like a house of cards.
Gotcha. Okay. Alright. Okay, so we got that one. So I figured next one we'll take one from your list. You want to do Kratos?
We can throw Kratos in there, yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't want to do Kratos, but we're gonna do Kratos.
We could skip Kratos. I have this one in the video.
No, they're gonna be people can be super pissed if we skipped Kratos, and they're also gonna be super pissed because they know I don't like Norse Kratos.
No.
No, I can't stand the Norse games. I think they ruined the character. I think they ruined Kratos as a character. I think the story is trash and overrated. The gameplay got worse.
Damn.
I don't like the Norse Kratos. I think that and everyone just yells at the top of their lungs that Norse Kratos is more powerful than Greek Kratos because Cory Barlog came out and said that Norse Kratos would beat Greek Kratos in a fight if they ever met. You know what? He should have fucking wrote it that way in the story because no, he is not. He gets his ass kicked every moment he possibly can. Refuses to use his rage. He's constantly bitch slapped by everybody. I mean,
I think him refusing to use his rage is exactly why he's losing so many more fights.
It doesn't matter. If he refuses to use his rage, he cannot defeat Greek Kratos. Like that's just it doesn't. If a refusal to use power that you have is you not having that power.
Well, him not using his power to the fullest extent doesn't mean that he's not as powerful. You know, like you could take Little Boy and Tsar Bomba side by side, and like if you never deploy Tsar Bomba but you blow up Little Boy, like you could say Little Boy is stronger because Tsar Bomba's just sitting in a warehouse somewhere, but it is stronger.
But in that fight, it's irrelevant. So, like, for instance, in the games, in God of War Ragnarok, Kratos gets attacked in his cabin by Thor and Odin. His son, Atreus, is in the cabin with Odin, with him not there, and he is being... And Thor is fighting him, and Thor beats his fucking ass and even kills him. Kratos never once uses his rage, despite the fact that his son is in danger currently in a cabin with Odin, who he knows wants to kill both of them. He refuses. If he refuses to use his rage at that moment, it cannot be said that he was guaranteed to use his rage in really any moment that he could fight against anybody. He has. Well,
he does come out because he ends up pulling out the rage at the end of that fight, of the Thor fight.
After he already dies to Thor, and Thor has to revive him and bring him back to life to continue the fight. If Thor didn't bring him back to life, he lost that fight. It was over. If it wasn't specifically within Thor's personality to bring him back and want to fight him at his strongest, Kratos would have died right there. Atreus would have died right there, and he would have failed, all because he refused to use his rage. And by the end of the game, he also refuses to use his rage. He never learns his lesson throughout the game. He even at the very end of the game considers him using his rage as a weakness. And every time
we're getting into like a narrative thing now, but I agree with the sentiment of the game is that like his method of just like using rage and not going for a different alternative is the point of the game. Like that's a criticism of him. Like at the beginning, sure, he's not using his rage right away, and then but it's not that like he needs to learn how to use his rage. He's learning that like rage isn't the only option, because he does eventually go on to use just his rage, and he ends up killing Heimdall, and he like breaks his one rule of like I'm not going to kill any more gods, and he gives that up by the end of the game, where he's staring down Thor, and he could just straight up keep fighting because he would have killed Thor if they kept going. But he said, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not rageful anymore. I'm going to put up my weapon and give you a chance to also lower your rage. And it worked.
Well, let me be clear.
The whole point is finding a different path that is not just straight violence. Because when he did that in the past, he destroyed an entire civilization.
Well, let me be clear. My critique of just now that I gave is not a critique of the narrative of the game. It's a critique.
It's like a logical one, but
critique of people saying that Norse Kratos is stronger than Greek Kratos. I don't think Norse Kratos is stronger than Greek Kratos. I don't care what Cory Barlog said. If he wanted him to be stronger, he should have wrote him as stronger. As far as the narrative goes, I have way bigger problems than him just not using his fucking rage. I don't like the fact that the entire game is essentially retconned from the original games. They had to change literally everything about Kratos' character, and not through actual character development, but actual legitimate retcons. They actually went back and rewrote scenes from the original game, scenes that I played through and saw, and changed the context of those scenes, and sometimes the straight up events that still exist. You can go watch fucking scenes on YouTube of the original games, and they completely changed it in Norse games. Make him justified in the things that he did in the past. He is not a natural evolution of the character that we saw at the end of God of War 3. He's a totally different fucking character, and I don't particularly think the story is written that well. God of War 2016.
Well, that's what the story of
2018.
Valhalla was that like he wasn't justified in the things that he did, but it was understanding why he did it. Not that it was justified or good.
No. Valhalla justified a lot of the shit he did. They
No, it
justified.
didn't. It was accepting
yes,
that it happened. It wasn't justifying
No,
it. There's a
they
difference between
absolutely-
acceptance and justification.
No, they justified. They said every single thing that he did. They went back and gave a reason as to why it wasn't as bad as Kratos.
They
thought
said
it was.
there was a reason for it,
But they
and
changed
it wasn't
the reason.
Kratos' fault, but that doesn't mean justification.
But they changed all the reasons to make it more justifiable. For instance, with the Barbarian King, they said that his reason for fighting the Barbarian King was because if he hadn't, the Barbarian King would have gone and invaded Sparta and destroyed it. That is not what happened. The Barbarian King in the original games was trying to kill Kratos because he was pissed off at Kratos because he blamed Kratos for killing his father. And that war was started specifically because he was trying to kill Kratos. It had nothing to do with Sparta. But they added this extra element where it's like,
But would he have gone on to kill and destroy Sparta as
That's
well
not
in the original
context? Games. He wasn't attacking
But
Sparta.
would he have?
That's new context. That was never given in the original games. That he would
Well, yeah, but
destroy
it's not
Sparta.
a retcon. That's just a new perspective.
It's an added element that tries to justify an action that Kratos made.
To me, there's no... Like, I understand if you have an issue with, like, retcons and stuff like that, but me, personally, I don't have an issue with retcons or adding perspectives that were not thought of in the past if it helps further a newer and better story, and I think Ragnarok does that.
Well, for one, that's only one example. They literally go through dozens. But it's also that actually, there's scenes in the original games that straight up have Kratos. They actually have Kratos say what his reasoning for doing things are, and then in Valhalla, they will literally say that, like, these are his reasonings. And it's like that; those two are completely conflicting. He says what his reasonings are in the original game, and he's saying something totally different here. And this reason that he's saying here is more justifiable than the old reason. It's a legitimate retcon. It's not like, even if you want to say that the added context to the barbarian ones, there are several actual legitimate retcons. Valhalla takes every single action that they talk about in that game and they twist it to make it be like, well, if you look at it in this way, it's actually kind of the whole purpose of the original games is that Kratos is not a good person. He absolutely fucking hates himself.
Which Valhalla doesn't. I don't think Valhalla undermines that, because like, his entire monologue at the end when he's talking to his younger self is not saying that what I did was right. It was him accepting that he did those things, and he had to go forward being better.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree
he had
with
to do it, and he had to, like, go forward with that instead of running away from it or trying to suppress it.
I don't disagree with that, but that doesn't change the fact that they still went back and retconned all the things to make it more acceptable and less, like, as evil as it was. Like, they gave him a reason for doing every single little evil thing that he did in the original games and said, well, you know, yeah, that was bad and that's not good. Like, there's even scenes where Kratos is like, well, he's talking to Tyr, and he remember exactly what they were talking about, but Tyr gives, like, a new perspective of something that Kratos did, and he's like, you would forgive you see my... He's like, no, I'm not forgiving, it's just truth. And it's like, oh, you just changed what happened. Like, that's, like, it's, yes, they don't straight up, like, forgive the actions, but they make the actions more easy to swallow in Valhalla by changing events that happened in the original games. And the story they wrote is not a natural conclusion to what happened I've thought this before Valhalla ever came out. When I played God of War 2018, I don't particularly like the story. I think the story is just, let's walk to a place, and then we're going to keep putting obstacles in your way so that you have to go the other way, and then we're going to put a lot of dramatic talking in between. There really isn't much of a story there. It's literally just, let's go to a place, and here's fucking, put this there. Oh, there's a fucking shadow wall. We gotta go to get this thing, and then let's go this way. Oh, here's this other thing in our way. There's the door. Oh, boulder broke the door. Let's go back and get some other thing. And it's like, bro, can we continue?
Well, it's more, story? Like, to me, it's more Kratos understanding why. Like, he knows what the things he did in Greece were bad, but he doesn't know why they were bad. And it's a lot of him discovering or figuring out with a different perspective, because now he's an outsider and now he's not so invested in the Norse. You know, the whole thing going on with Baldur and Freya, like, he has no stake in that game. He has nothing to do with it whatsoever, and so he gives him a better perspective on, like, the kind of things he had done in the past.
What do you mean? You mean like Tyr? You're giving him a better perspective. Is that what you're talking about?
No, like him being an outsider to the Norse myths that are playing out kind of similarly, because like the path that Baldur starts to go on, where he's feeling resentful and spiteful towards the gods and Freya and everything like that, is the same kind of path that Kratos was on in the first 3 games, and he saw what that kind of rage and anger did. Obviously, it led to him destroying the entirety of Greece and killing all the Greek gods.
Sure,
and that's
but that misses
why
the
he
point
kills
of the
Baldur
original
and stuff
games.
like that.
It misses the point of the original game. Kratos was not angry with the gods. Kratos was angry with himself. Kratos hates himself in the original games, and he
also hates the gods.
I mean, he does, but he's lashing out at the gods in a suicide attempt. It's the longest suicide letter ever written. Is the first 3 God of War games. It's him trying to kill himself and not being able to. The reason why he goes after the gods is because the gods don't let him kill himself at the end of God of War 1. And then they create him a god. They don't cure him of his nightmares. He absolutely hates himself and hates absolute life. And the new games even tried to like change why he kills himself at the end of God of War 3. They say that at the end of God of War 3, he released hope into humanity as his last sacrifice for the good of humanity. That's not what happened. But he stabbed himself with the sword and killed himself because he didn't want, as a last fuck you to Athena after he found out that Athena has been using him this whole time. The only person that he thought was an ally of his finally reveals, oh, actually, I wanted you to wipe out all the gods. Now give me the power of hope so I can control the people. And he's like, okay, I'm tired of being a tool. And then he just stabs himself and kills himself. And that's the end of his character arc because he finally did what he wanted to do from the very first game, which is end his fucking life. That's what the whole game is about.
I mean, I guess, yeah, you can have that complaint of like it wraps up the ending fairly nicely and you kind of have to dig it up a little bit to continue going. But I mean, that whole concept of him telling Athena to go fuck herself is continued into the next game. Like, that's the whole thing about him just not wanting to... Like, he doesn't want to kill gods, but he doesn't know why. And that's because he just doesn't want to be Athena's monster. And I still think it works for the...
the new game still retcons the scene. I mean, the new game says that he did it for the good
Well, I mean, you have
humanity.
for the story to move forward, I think.
They don't. I mean, look, I had no problem with them making a sequel to the game. They can make a sequel to, like, even the end after the credits. If you stay and watch God of War 3 all the way to the end of the credits, I mean, he's still alive. Like, him trying to kill himself still didn't work. And I'm not the only one who's had this complaint. I mean, although I don't agree with his reasons, the original creator of Kratos has come out and said something. Yeah, David. He's come out and said something similar, where he was like, Cory Barlog wanted to tell a particular story that fit his own life and what he was going through, and he used Kratos as a vehicle to do it, and it really doesn't fit Kratos' character to do that. I mean, the whole concept of him having a son around the same age of Cory Barlog's son, and the fact that Atreus speaks in a different language and this thing he can't understand, and Kratos is sort of new to this world, is exactly like Cory Barlog's real thing, because he's married to a foreign wife, lives in a foreign country with a foreign child, and he doesn't speak the same language as they do. He basically placed himself in the game. He altered Kratos' character to make him a more good character and a more sympathetic character, when Kratos is not a sympathetic character. I mean, there are things you can feel sympathy of him for, but he causes his own destruction. He is a Greek tragedy in the original games. Greek tragedies, like Hercules and all these other people, they cause their own destructions, and kind of terrible people. That's sort of his whole thing. He wanted to turn Kratos into a good person. He could have done that if he wanted to over time, but he didn't go through the proper channels to do it. He just created a new character for the beginning of God of War 2018. That's a totally new person, new voice actor. Like, it doesn't feel like old Kratos at all. It's not the same person. And he didn't bring that character through this. Look, if I was watching a show and in season 1 a character was a certain way, and in season 2 that character was completely fucking different, and I didn't get to see how they went, I would say that is an issue that the show had. And I'm going to say the same thing here.
That happens all the time. That's a lot of characters develop like that.
And it's bad. That's not development.
Yeah, it is.
It's not development.
You can have characters develop. Just because the character changes doesn't mean that it's not character development. I feel like that's a really odd claim to make. No, like, would you say that like
develop a character?
The first idea that comes to my mind is like Rick Grimes, where you have like season 1 Rick Grimes doesn't even kill people. He doesn't even he has a hard time killing even the zombies at the beginning, and then just 5 seasons later, he's like ripping a dude's throat out with his teeth.
No, because you saw 5 seasons.
That's
no, because you saw 5 seasons of development. You didn't take Rick Grimes at the end of season 1 and then have season 2. Now he's ripping throats and didn't explain why. That's not development. That's you changing the character to what you want it to be. You have to see the development has to be seen. You don't just do it off screen, and that's not development. You're just changing it.
I mean, I get that it like there's this time skip and it just goes right from, if you go right from 3 to 4, that like this kind of, but like the development is in there. It's just not, you don't play through the development. You're getting the development retroactively as we discover why Kratos is how he is throughout God of War 2018 and Ragnarok.
But we don't discover that. We do. There's no flashbacks in God of War 2018.
You don't need flashbacks to understand why he's doing what he's doing. He like tells us many times that he like doesn't want to kill gods and he doesn't want to be the person he used to be, or
just not who he was at the end of 3. Which is not who he was at the end of 3. So that's not development. You just changed who he was, but didn't explain why. It's not development. Development, you have to see development. You can't just change. You can. I mean, you can do it. It's just bad writing to do it. Cory Barlog wanted to make a game about a particular character that didn't fit Kratos. So he took Kratos and he bended and molded him to the way he wanted to, and then added a bunch of God of War references that essentially like tied the 2 games together. But the story doesn't fit the arc that Kratos was going on to, even at the end of 3. The person who killed himself at the end of 3 would not become the person who was at the beginning of God of War 4 without some serious retconning, and they knew that. That's why Valhalla came out and basically changed a lot of shit that happened. They actually had to change Kratos' mindset and why he did certain things in the original games, because that person would not become the person who was eventually in Valhalla and Ragnarok in 2018. Altered everything about his character. It's essentially the same. Actually, they did a thing that really annoys me, and this isn't really I got away. They Wolverined him. That's what I call it. It's basically when you take a character who's super, super evil, but the person who's writing the character doesn't feel comfortable writing an evil character, so they turn him into Wolverine, which is essentially a character who used to be really bad, but isn't anymore, so let's like make him just kind of rough, and then give him a child, and then that child will soften him over the course of the game. They did it with the Netflix Punisher. That is not Punisher. He doesn't act anything like Punisher in that Netflix series. He was Wolverine. They did it with Wolverine and Logan. They did it with it's a trope you see all the time. Joel. They didn't do it with him. I mean, that was his character from the start. Joel is a gruff, hard man, who's given a child and is made softer. There's Gran Torino, the film with Clint Eastwood. They do it with him. It's a very well-known trope. You take a bad guy and you want to turn him into a good guy, you give him a fucking kid, and then he'll turn into a good guy. I don't even think that really makes sense, because Kratos has already been given 2 kids in the series, and neither of those were able to change him. For whatever reason, this third one was able to change him, but it's Norse Kratos is not Kratos to me. It's fine. It's not. I'm not going to say it's a terrible game, but it's not a continuation of the story that happened in 3. It's just essentially it is a soft reboot of the entire franchise, and that's kind of how I take it.
Well, yeah, that's how it's set up. It's a soft reboot, which I don't have any issue with that.
I'm not saying I have an issue with it. I'm saying that it's.
Well, I don't think it's a bad thing either, because it's in service of a better story, and I think that works.
I don't think it's a better story. I think I greatly prefer. I think that there's more story.
So I think.
Definitely more of
it's a story that you don't like, not that it's not a better story.
I would say that the zero development and the just complete retconning of the character is a bad writing. I would say that.
I don't know, because I think there is development on that character, but no. I mean, we're way outside the bounds of throwing Kratos at Warhammer now, so
it is what it is. For the podcast, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, we could throw. We could throw them at it's fine. There's been a lot of people. I've shit on Kratos quite a few times in my own videos, and people have asked me to talk about it anyway. So they get a little bonus in this video.
Yeah,
I can go on for hours about why I don't like it. There's more than just what I've said, but that's good enough. So should we throw Norse Kratos into Warhammer? Should we throw Norse and Greek Kratos separately, since they basically have entirely different
I think
powers?
If you throw Greek Kratos at Warhammer, he gets corrupted by Khorne, and Norse Kratos might just fuck off into a corner and not do anything, and just
not do anything, not even be
find
relevant,
somewhere to retire,
not even be relevant to the conversation. That's fair. Yeah, because generally what I was saying is Kratos just has Greek Kratos just has far larger variety of powers and crazy hacks, and he's above time and all this crazy shit that just doesn't really exist in the Norse games. Like in the Norse games, he's basically just a super strong guy that has ice powers and fire powers. And it's pretty basic shit. So I don't know how useful he would be to the Norse Kratos in the Warhammer universe, even if he did care to get involved with it.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know he would have a motivation to fight anything. Like his main motivation, especially at the end of Ragnarok, is just sort of helping the people of the 9 realms and stuff, or 8 realms, and they don't exist in Warhammer, so he's just
then we still get the same issue with Doomslayer, where it's basically if there is someone out there that you could help, basically you have to kill everybody. So
maybe, if there's one dude that he feels like he needs to...
Yeah, would Kratos even... And the Kratos at the end of the Norse games would not just decide to kill everybody, But at the same time, would he decide to abandon the universe to its death, basically, to its suffering and havoc? So it's sort of
I think if he was on his own, he probably wouldn't. He would need Freya and Atreus with him to urge him on to do something about it. I mean, that's the whole thing about Ragnarok, is that his thing was if you have the ability to affect change, you should. But I don't know if he even would. I mean, there's not a lot in Warhammer that could even take him on, because as far as I am aware, the rules of his immortality is that as long as it's not godly, it can't kill him, or at least kill him for good, which narrows down the things that can actually kill him down to the Emperor and the Chaos Gods, and that's about it.
Well, if we're using Power of Hope Kratos, he might be able to fix the universe. I mean, the whole idea of Warframe is that it's a hopeless universe that's caught in an infinite war. Power of Hope Kratos has the ability to bestow hope upon universe that he's in. That's his whole
It's
ability.
not that. So the thing about Warhammer is that there isn't hope. There is hope type stuff. That's how they have the Angels of Death and stuff.
Seems like false hope.
It's very small hope, but it's it doesn't matter how much hope you have, because the universe still sucks. You could be hopeful, oh, I hope I survive this battle, but then the universe is still going to go on. You're still going to get thrown to the meat grinder immediately after.
So, what do you think he would be able to do with his whole Power of Hope thing? Do you think it would make any difference at all?
I honestly can't say, because I don't know why. I don't think Norse Kratos would get involved whatsoever.
Oh, Kratos. Okay, so apparently it was said that Norse Kratos does still have the Power of Hope, but he just never uses it. And this is one of the reasons why I don't really listen to anything that Corey Barlog says about the characters, because he keeps saying things, but they don't show up in the story. So apparently Norse Kratos does have the Power of Hope. He never uses it. The only time we've ever seen the Power of Hope be used is at the end of God of War 3, and he releases it to all the people and bestows upon them hope, so that they have the ability to rule themselves and to basically separate themselves from the gods. Essentially, if that version of Kratos decides to release the Power of Hope, or if the Norse version of Kratos finds out that he has the Power of Hope and then releases it, could that eventually give people the power or the will to essentially separate themselves from all of this religious craziness and basically live their own lives and go about and do? Would that make any change at all?
I mean, you'd have a civil war at the very least, and you still have a half dozen different alien empires and demons to contend with. And stuff like the Tyranids, which are just mindless bugs that just eat everything they come across.
I didn't say it would end all the wars. I'm saying maybe it might make...
the ecclesiarchy, the Imperial Church might collapse. Maybe, yeah.
Okay. Well, he did something. He made some...
That's the only thing I can think of. And then him as far as battling stuff, the Chaos Gods, probably not. And then the Emperor, it comes down to, I don't know, I guess how much he wants it.
Okay.
But young Kratos, I think, definitely just becomes cornified.
Cornified? Yeah.
I think he could get wrapped up into a scheme pretty quickly and just thrown at whatever.
Does Khorne basically start corrupting anyone like that, or does he only corrupt certain unique individuals, or is it just everyone gets corrupted who kind of goes
like the way that the warp works is that like the stronger you are and the stronger your soul is, the brighter in the warp you appear, because the warp is like an amalgamation of everyone's souls. So you say you take someone who's really powerful, like the God Emperor of Mankind. When you look at souls in the warp, he's like a lighthouse, right? Like, they literally use him to direct their ships, because they can, if you're flying a ship in the warp, and you look at the lighthouse, you can go, okay, there's Earth. If I know where Earth is, I know where I can find everything else, right? So, say with Korn, when he sees somebody that is, like, explicitly special for whatever reason, if they're just full of so much rage and energy and power, they show up, they burn a little bit brighter in the warp. And he will focus his attention on that one, and basically bless them with all these different things to make them stronger and more ferocious and more deadly and everything like that, until, you know, they've basically become a part of him. So Kratos, with the stuff that he does, would probably be a pretty big lighthouse.
Yeah, it sounds fucking like it. He's fucked.
Yeah.
Especially that version. Okay, next we have, I want to talk about Kazuya Mishima and Nightmare. And I want to talk about them kind of together, because they have sort of similar powers, and I think it would be interesting to see exactly. And
isn't this Tekken and Soul Calibur?
This is Tekken and Soul Calibur. Yeah, they're made by the same company, and they're kind of similar characters. So I kind of just bundled.
Is Nightmare the knight with like the mouth in the middle?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, Nightmare is just a fucking evil demon. Basically, he's an evil spirit. He's a demon, but they call him an evil spirit. But the reason that, and Kazuya is a evil dictator that wants to take over the world. He wants just control and power. As far as his motivations, not the character. The character is more interesting, but as far as his motivations go, they're basically Cobra Commander. Like, he's just as evil as you can get. At one point in the Tekken universe, started experimenting on animals to make them super soldiers, because he knew. Don't laugh. Because he knew that the war he was going to start with the humans would kill so many people that he would run out of human soldiers. So he started making animal super soldiers.
Is that where the panda comes from?
No.
Or King?
No. King is just a Mexican wrestler who wears a mask, who speaks in only Jaguar for no discernible reason.
It's a mask.
It's a mask.
I thought he had a Jaguar head.
No, he is a Mexican dude who has just chosen to speak in Jaguar. He's just a human. There's no reason why he speaks in Jaguar. It's not even a Jaguar mask. I'm pretty sure it's a cheetah mask. But, Kuma is a bear who Heihachi trained how to fight as an insult to Kazuya, his son, because he wanted to show Kazuya that he's so worthless that a bear can be better than he could. He could train a bear.
So it's just Kung Fu Panda, literally.
Kuma, yeah. And then Panda is a girl bear that was trained how to fight.
Oh, okay.
As well. They're just bears that were trained by Heihachi how to fight. And everyone says that Kuma is Heihachi's real child. He loves that bear, and he hates Kazuya. He threw Kazuya off a mountain when he was like 10 years old, multiple times. So it's a very goofy universe, but it's also pretty awesome too. But anyway, so Kazuya has this thing called the Devil Gene, which is sort of maybe a gene, but also sort of maybe just some dark demonic power. And essentially, he is a wannabe world-conquering entity that has the ability to control his own soul as well as the souls of others, and absorb powers and energies to increase his power. He also has the ability that essentially just as long as he is around, power just sort of constantly builds in ways that are unnatural. So he's given a fraction of this god demon character's power, Azazel, and that's where he gets his Devil Gene powers. And despite him only having a fraction, when he eventually does meet Azazel and fight him, he instantly defeats him, and Azazel doesn't know how this is possible, and it's because that fraction of power that he gave him, Kazuya was able to grow that power into becoming vastly superior than all of this planet-destroying god-level being. So he basically has constantly growing power, along with the ability to absorb and control souls that can add to his power. So my question, really, when it comes to Kazuya, is if he ever got into the warp, would he be able to absorb the warp?
how does he absorb? Does he have to like be stronger than the thing, or can he just say take it?
So with Azazel, with when he fights against Azazel, he just takes it. Like Azazel has no way of fighting back. At very early on in the game, I want to say Tekken 4. Tekken 4, he tries to absorb Jin's, but Jin fights him off. But that's it's kind of unclear as to how he does it. Some of it's like the influence of his mother, we then eventually find out is alive. Some of it is because Jin is the son of Kazuya. He also has some manner of control over his soul, just like Kazuya had. But we do know that Kazuya has considerably more control over his soul than Jin does. Like, when Kazuya was younger, he actually had two souls in his body. He had his soul, and then he had the soul of this devil being. And Kazuya's soul actually overcame and took over the devil's soul. Now it's just Kazuya in control. Kazuya is basically, if you had to describe his character, it's kind of like, imagine if... Seen The Exorcist?
Long time ago.
Okay. You know the basic gist of it. So
yeah.
If Pazuzu...
I've seen the Shrek parody of it.
Okay. Kazuya is basically if Pazuzu jumped into the little girl Raven to possess her, and then found out that Raven is significantly more fucked up than he is, and basically loses like that inner fight. That's basically Kazuya. He gets possessed by the devil, and then the devil realizes Kazuya is worse than he is. And then Kazuya takes all of his fucking powers and basically supplants him as like the new devil being. And then he just goes around gaining power and absorbing souls and absorbing powers, and then he just becomes stronger and stronger. Well, okay, I should be clear. The only souls that he tries to absorb are souls that also have some sort of dark power in them. He doesn't absorb normal souls. He tries to absorb Jin's, which he fails to do because plot reasons. And he absorbs Azazel, who is the literal god of devils, and he absorbs that guy's soul and basically acquires all of his power. But he doesn't just absorb anyone's souls. He absorbs specifically souls and the power of people who have dark energies. And he just adds that to his own.
So if he's absorbing the souls of specifically evil people, that kind of limits him, because then that immediately cuts off the Chaos Gods, because the Chaos Gods don't have souls. They are just like soul soup juice.
I don't think he's going to absorb the Chaos Gods. I don't even necessarily think he's going to absorb the souls of evil space marines or anything. I'm specifically asking about the warp, since the warp is itself just an amalgamation of a bunch of different souls. I mean, if he ever got into the warp, really the entire reason why I'm introducing this character specifically for this question, if he ever got into the warp, would he be able to absorb these souls and essentially that dark energy that exists within the warp and basically become a god level being overnight?
Maybe, because the warp is the manifestation and the amalgamation of all the souls throughout the universe, but the warp is also the warp is the Chaos Gods. So if he went to the warp and he tried to just take a bite out of the warp is going to try and take a bite out of him right back. So if the whole thing is about willpower and he has to be if the whole thing was that Satan jumped into his body and he was basically more fucked up than Satan and he was able to keep that, now he has to do that with the manifestation of willpower in the Warhammer universe.
It's not because he's more fucked up than Satan, that just happens to be the case. He's just shown throughout the series to have a large... He probably has the highest willpower of the entire series. And he has a massive amount of control and understanding over his soul and his power, more so than anyone else. His son has the same power he has. His son has the devil gene. And it has been stated on several occasions that Jin has a stronger devil gene in his body than Kazuya does. But despite that, he's only been able to beat Kazuya a handful of times because Kazuya just has way more control over his whole thing. Kazuya becomes the biggest threat in the entire series despite having a weaker devil gene because of his ability to control his power. Essentially, Jin always denied his power, and Kazuya just jumped headfirst into it. Because of this, he's really mastered his power in a way that Jin never could.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure if it has anything to do with willpower. They don't actually say that it's willpower. A lot of series like Marvel, for instance, Marvel willpower is straight up a superpower. If you have willpower, you can defend against any mental control. It's actually listed as a willpower. The Thing has the most willpower in the entire Marvel universe, and basically can't be controlled by anyone. In a lot of universes, willpower is not really relevant. In a lot of universes, it doesn't matter how strong your willpower is. If I can get inside your brain and start fucking with the brain signals in your head, your willpower is not going to do shit. So Tekken a willpower based thing? You don't answer that question. That's not.
Yeah.
That's that we don't know. So maybe not.
Maybe because like my biggest thing is he would have to contend with people that are really powerful psychers, because psychers in 40k are basically people that can fuck with the warp. Like the Emperor is a big psyker. Most of the Primarchs are psychers and stuff, and it basically allows them to, this is going to be a fucked up explanation of it, but like use their soul as a conduit to use the warp to basically summon the same powers that the demons have, like shooting electricity out of your hands and shit like that.
Well, so seeing as Kazuya in the past, when he was much weaker, has tried to like remove the soul of Jin and stuff like that to take his powers. I mean, it's not like Kazuya's going to show up and be like, let's go directly to the warp and steal some shit.
Yeah, I think he would be...
He could steal some psychers, right?
He could probably fuck over a few psychers, especially weaker ones. Especially because like there's so many people that there's psychers being born that don't even know they're psychic, and that's how like chaos corrupts most often. Is that like some dude secretly has the ability to open demonic portals and he doesn't even know it until like one day he's eating a sandwich and then boom, demons. And it's like that's probably where it would come in handy once you start getting to the more powerful psychers like Grey Knights, which are like said to be like so powerful that they are incorruptible to chaos. Or stuff like Magnus the Red, who's one of the Primarchs, whose whole thing is psyker powers, and he's seconded only to the Emperor and the Emperor's right-hand man in terms of like psychic power. Like there's obviously an upper limit here, but psychers would be the first like obstacle for him to run into, but he wouldn't have too much of an issue with it to a certain level.
So he basically, you can argue, because in the games he actually goes like power hunting, basically. Like in the games, he actually like goes to get more power. Now that's not his end goal, because in Tekken 8 he actually loses all of his powers, and then you think he's gonna care, but he doesn't. He's like, it was just a means to an end to do the things that I want to do. So he doesn't actually care about having physical power all that much, which is kind of crazy, because he spent like the entire series building power. So if he comes here, he could essentially just travel around the entire universe, going basically psyker hunting. And building up his power.
Like it depends on what he runs into. So say like humanity, like there's different levels. You have like regular person, you have Psyker, you have Space Marine, you have Grey Knights, you have the Primarchs, and then like the Emperor at the top, right? And then he can only go so far up that rung. And then there's different species. Say like if he runs into Necrons, which are the Terminator robots, they just don't have souls. Like they can't be corrupted by chaos because they don't have souls. And it's like, well, you're just fighting the Terminator, and you're like the soul magic now doesn't do him any good. Or something like the Tyranids. That'd be an interesting one, because like the Tyranids, specifically the Starship Trooper bugs, they have, because they're a hive mind and there's so many of them, they're described as being like overwhelming to psychers. So like if you're a psycher and you're near a lot of Tyranids, they will just fry your brain from the inside out if you try to tap into that soul power. So it'd be interesting to see something like that happen, where he would try to, I don't know, trying to siphon soul something from the Tyranids, and he just gets short-circuited, you know?
Hey, like I said, he doesn't try absorbing everybody. He only, like in his series, he only tries to absorb 2 people, because there's only 2 people that exist in his universe that have that kind of dark energy and power of souls.
Yeah.
So he would likely target specific people. Like, I don't know if he can.
He would have to be very careful with who he goes after.
Basically. Yeah. Would it be possible that with his constantly building power and absorbing more and more psychers, that there's a point that if he absorbs other psychers before he ever runs into a Tyranid, he could be powerful enough that if he even tries to, he could overcome that weakness?
Not the Tyranids, no. I don't think them. I think there is an upper limit, like he is gonna, because even if he gets to the power, say if he like slowly builds his way up, you know, to being able to take the soul of like Magnus the Red or something, well then like now the next up is the Emperor, who is literally, as far as the Warhammer universe is concerned, that's the top of the rung. Like if you're not him, you're not beating him, you know?
Unless the four go into the warp and
Chaos gods together teamed up to try and kill the Emperor, and they only put him on life support.
Unless he could actually go into the warp. That's what I didn't think that he could take on any of the Chaos gods or anything like that. But I was thinking, like, if he could get
go,
to the warp,
and he could probably siphon little bits. But it's like that same thing where I was talking about, where like how Korn picks people, is that like he would become a lighthouse very quickly, because they'd be like, oh, what's this going on? You know?
Oh yeah, he'd be fucked. I'm not saying
he would get targeted quickly.
Yeah, I'm not saying
Yeah.
he'd be
Well, it's like that's
chaos.
what I mean. It's like he would do
sure.
well until he's discovered, and then he's.
Got you. That makes sense. Now, Nightmare works similarly to him, which is why I kind of paired these two together, but he is a little bit different.
Gotcha.
So he actually does just straight up absorb souls. Like at one point, he just lifted his sword in the air and he absorbed an entire army that was attacking him. He absorbed all their souls in one attack. And this makes him vastly more powerful.
Yeah.
On top of that, has like perfect hour mimicry, where he just looks at you and he knows all of the skills. He could fight just like you could fight. He has any sort of power like telekinesis. Like he copied telekinesis from a character named Cervantes, and he's essentially only limited in power by the universe that he's in. So he's not that strong in the Soul Calibur universe, because the Soul Calibur universe is not that strong of a universe. But on sight, he can copy anyone's powers and anyone's skills, as well as just absorb whole armies of souls at a time. Essentially, throwing him into the Warhammer 40K universe would make the limiter to his power would essentially be gone. He could just keep going for as long as there's people to absorb and as long as there's skills to copy. So basically based on that, and it's also, when he copies skills, he doesn't just use that skill exactly as it is. He's shown being able to copy that skill and incorporating those into his general fighting style. So he uses the style of Siegfried, because Siegfried is the most powerful character in, like, he is, as Nightmare sees, the most skilled swordsman that has ever lived. That's the abilities he uses, but it's not exactly like Siegfried's skills. It's Siegfried with a bunch of other skills from a bunch of other characters. He's essentially always going to be a better version of the person he absorbs, because he's everything that you know and can do, plus everything else that he already knows on top of it, sort of mixed together. And before anybody says it, I know that Soul Calibur 2 says that he can only steal the powers of people he possesses, but that was retconned later in the series, so I don't want to see any fucking comments about it. It was retconned later in the series.
We don't like retcons, so we're going to use the Soul Calibur 2 logic.
I don't like retcons. But okay. So to be fair, I don't know if this was in Soul Calibur 2. I had comments in one of my videos when I was talking about Nightmare in the past, where it's like, oh well, it was said in Soul Calibur 2. I didn't double check. I'm assuming I'm assuming for a second that that's correct.
We're going to trust the YouTube comments. That's what I always do.
Later in the series, it is shown that he has the power and skills of literally every single person on the roster, despite the fact that he's only actually possessed like 2 of them. So the whole possession thing, it's not a factor. If it was a factor in Soul Calibur 2, it's not a factor anymore, and it hasn't been for a long time. Also, important note, this is an important thing I probably should say. Nightmare is actually not the person. The person is just an empty suit of armor. The Nightmare is actually the sword that he wields that can shapeshift and shit, and it is possessed by the spirit of Inferno. If you kill the suit of armor or touch the sword in any way, you will now be possessed by the sword. Like, the sword can literally possess anyone in the area. Yeah. So you can keep killing the bodies, and the sword will just move on to new people. But
what does it possess specifically? Like a soul, or?
I mean, you can assume a soul, since his powers are pretty heavily tied to souls.
Because I think you end up like in Warhammer, there is no limit, but then you end up back at the same thing with Kaz, where like you can't like possess because there is still going to be a cap on him with the Chaos Gods. Basically, what I'm saying.
As far as possessing, but he could set eyes on the Chaos Gods. Could he copy their limit? I don't know. I think that there should probably be a limit to what someone can copy.
Yeah, I don't know what the upper limits of like what he can do, or what he can like. You say like he can absorb souls, and it's like, is there a limit on that, or can he just walk up to the Tyranid hive mind and just take the entirety of all of that?
Well, he takes an army of souls. I mean, he takes an entire army of souls. There are characters whose souls he doesn't take, but they usually have some sort of magical defense or a blessing on their souls by the gods.
I think Psychers would probably be able to withstand it.
Possibly at first. But I think there's going to be a specific, like, if he is absorbing whole planets of people with souls and at levels that he's never been able to do before, like I said, I think it's only a matter of time before he passes up whatever that defense is. But then again, you still have the whole, like you were saying, the lighthouse thing, where he's going to bring a whole lot of attention to himself very quickly. And I don't know, maybe he can do some. This is why I kind of put him and Kaz in the same category, because they're very similar.
If it's corruptible, it would probably just fall to Korn again, I would think, or maybe even Zinch.
Nightmare. You could say Nightmare is corruptible. I mean, he is corruption itself. Like, he corrupts other things. Nightmare himself is just this presence, like this evil spirit. Like, if he has at times manifested like a body wield the sword when he doesn't have a
because
body.
I would imagine at that point Nightmare in the 40K universe just kind of becomes like a walking manifestation of the warp in real space, like his own, like a demon of the warp in a way that just sort of spreads chaos corruption as he goes along.
Yeah, because he is kind
like he would just kind of join chaos in that way.
Yeah, he kind of is a very lesser version of like something that you would see in Doom with the demon, but he's not a demon like you would see in Doom, but like he's kind of like the corruption itself.
Yeah,
he would be like if the corruption existed without the demons in Doom, but to not quite
like the corruption in Darksiders.
I haven't played Darksiders.
Oh well,
I'm gonna go.
One of the entities is like a corruptive force.
Yeah, he's just a spirit who just corrupts all that comes into contact with him. He just slowly fucks with their mind. He turns them evil. He gives them like he just fucks with people basically, and he can manifest a body to fight, or just what he usually does, which is possess other people or possess a suit of armor, which is what the Nightmare form that you know from the pictures with the mouth and shit. That's just a suit of armor that he possessed. And yeah, that's basically how it works. So basically, it would be similar to Cass, but possibly a little better if he becomes an actual manifestation of chaos.
I guess it depends on how strong he gets, because even like the strongest champion that Chaos had ever drummed up had only ever like it put the Emperor on life support, but it didn't kill him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I could imagine he could probably get to that level of strength, like Horus at his height.
Seems like everyone we talk about stops at the Chaos Gods.
That's the whole thing about Warhammer. Is like even if you all the other factions, even if you kill all the Tau, even if you somehow kill all the Necrons, even if you kill all the Tyranids and the Orcs and humanity, like the existence of the Chaos Gods is there to keep the game going in perpetuity. Like that's just like that is their narrative purpose. And unless you are a thing like Ben 10 Alien X that can just go like snap your fingers and get rid of them, they're just going to exist forever and fuck your day over.
That brings up a good point, because I have two characters on here. I have Ben 10 on here. That was someone who was on your list, and I have the Darkness. And both of these characters are capable of snapping their fingers and erasing people from all of existence. So those two characters that we should just skip because they would instantly obliterate the entire universe.
Yeah, Ben 10's interesting. Like, I did my video on it, trying to basically go as far as I could without just pulling the Alien X card. But the Alien X card is obviously, remaking reality in your own image is a pretty powerful ace.
Yeah, Darkness does literally the same thing. I don't know if you ever know. Yeah, a lot of people go by. Nobody knows the Darkness because nobody's read the fucking Darkness comics. I'm like the only person who actually read those comics. But basically, people look at the Darkness the same way he was in the video games that came out, which he's this guy that has this entity inside of him, and he has to stay out of light, and if light touches him, he can't use his powers, but if he's in the darkness, he has all kinds of crazy stuff, and at some point, he erases the universe and recreates it because, that's super old version of the Darkness. Darkness now is not weak to light. He hasn't been for a long time. Jackie Estacado, who is the guy who used to have the Darkness entity in him, has supplanted the Darkness entity. He is a massive multiversal being who can recreate and create the universe in his image whenever he wants. I put him on the list because I didn't know how powerful the Chaos Gods were. I wasn't sure if maybe it would be... Oh, and also, he is the conceptual existence of Darkness itself. So, what that I thought would be really interesting is if he actually joined the Chaos Gods, becoming his own Chaos God as well, in the concept of the Dark. Essentially adding to the Chaos Gods' ranks, because he has a very similar...
Possibly. I mean, there are other gods throughout the Warhammer universe, like I mentioned briefly earlier, like the orcs have their two gods. That is like the manifestation of all orc souls, and they're very, they're like kind of amorphously on the same level as the Chaos Gods, but they're just orky. Like the Eldar, the space elves have their own pantheon of gods that are much more like Greek gods, where like they each represent like a different thing, like order, life, death, water, air, whatever. And I think it would just become something like that. He would become like one of the lesser chaos gods throughout the galaxy.
Well, he can also erase the multiverse.
Higher, because
but also erase the multiverse and recreate it. Yeah, and it's like as long as darkness exists, he cannot be killed, and he is darkness itself, and it's all I wasn't
like
sure
the
how
concept
powerful.
of darkness, like nighttime, or like evil, or
like,
both.
It's sort of it's sort of expand. Originally, it's like the dark, like absence of light.
Yeah.
But eventually, it gets expanded to the point that like darkness is really just a stand-in for just nothing. It's like he is the concept of both nothing and like darkness is the absence of something. So anywhere where there's it gets insane. Essentially, he is
very conceptual.
Yeah, he's darkness. You can just darkness is shorthand, but basically he is the conceptual existence of nothing, and he is nothing. He can make anything he wants nothing. It becomes a whole expanded shit. So. He was probably the most powerful person that I put on this list because I wasn't sure what the higher end of. I didn't want to put literal god.
When it comes to Warhammer, it's you erase the entire universe and remake it without chaos, or you're stuck. You know, or you are able to affect the universe in such a way that you can change the nature of the chaos gods. Like, if you're able to, kill everything that's going on and end all the wars and end all the dying and the suffering and, the excess and stuff like that, you could theoretically change the Chaos Gods to be less evil. You know what I mean?
I don't necessarily think he would be able to work. So, Jackie's actually...
I don't think darkness would, but...
Yeah, Jackie's actually a really fucked up dude. Like, at one point, he didn't like where his life had gone because, the woman that he used to love died, and the woman who he had a kid with, he hated him, and his life was kind of falling apart. So he erased the entire universe, killing everybody, and recreated the universe, bringing his dead girlfriend back to life, and having his daughter now no longer be the daughter of him and the girl he had a kid with, but be the daughter of him and his ex-girlfriend who he never had a daughter with. And the most fucked up part about this is that the person he did have the kid with was the wielder of the Witchblade, and the Witchblade was created by the darkness, so when he erased all of existence, it protected her from the existence erasure. So when he recreated the universe, she was aware of the entire previous universe that existed. She wasn't changed. So she just knows now that her daughter knows who she is and is now the daughter of this other fucking chick who Jackie brought back. Everything in the world is different now. And it's like, dude, that's fucked up, Jackie. Jackie's kind of a piece of shit. So yeah, he would absolutely erase the world if he didn't like it and completely recreate all of 40K to be however it is he wanted it to be. Because he's done it for lesser reasons than, complete and utter fucking chaos.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, that's how most of these things go, where it's can Batman take on 40K? And it's well, probably not. Ben Affleck Batman? No, he'd get ripped to shreds, right? But if it's Batman from this one comic where he becomes god of everything and he can rewrite the multiverse, maybe. Yeah, sure.
Well, that is one thing I actually like about the Darkness, is that they only have one canon. Alternate variations of the Darkness. It's literally just the one. They do have crossovers, there's a crossover with Batman, but that crossover with Batman is considered canon to the even though they're owned by different goes through
Batman is canon to the Darkness.
Yeah. But the Darkness might not necessarily be canon to Batman. But yeah, any crossover they have is considered canon, and they usually write serious development into those comics, into those crossover comics. So that you kind of have to read them if you want that development, and then that development is brought in and continued into the stories later. It's that's a whole thing.
Yeah, but basically to say that it's all so you have to get a point of granularity that makes these comparisons either really interesting if you go to if you're comparing say a single person say you're comparing a Spartan from Halo to a Space Marine, but if you're comparing I don't know Armageddon Hulk or something, and it's okay, yeah, the guy breaks planets. It's probably
that's why
there is an upper limit, but you have to be this level of just erase the entire universe to even attempt, and by the point you're at that level, then there's kind of no point to doing it to begin with.
Yeah. Well, one of the things. Well, yeah, that's true. But one of the things I think is and something that we haven't really talked about too much, but a lot of these characters that are weaker a part of me was thinking that they wouldn't ever come into contact with the Chaos. Like if you're just like, even if you're just like a planet destroyer and you're going about doing whatever it is you would normally do, you may go through your entire life and never run into a Chaos God. It was really when you told me that they kind of become a beacon, a lighthouse for the Chaos Gods to specifically come for them, or you kind of threw off my whole idea of like,
it also depends on the time frame of Warhammer, right? So like you have the Necron Empire, the Terminators, who existed like they're like the Reapers from Mass Effect. Like they've existed for millions and billions of years before humanity was ever a thing, and they've built all of these pylons throughout the galaxy that kind of suppress the warp and make it so the Chaos Gods kind of like get put in the forever box. And the Emperor of Mankind came up while the Necrons were asleep, so he kind of inherited this galaxy that was free of chaos. And then most recently, in like the 41st millennium, in modern 40K, those pylons that were like suppressing chaos just snapped open, so like the universe has literally been split in half with a massive like warp rift. So it's like, if you're talking about like 30k Warhammer during like the Horus Heresy and when the Emperor was still around, there's a lot less chaos stuff to contend with. But if you're talking about modern 40k, like the current day of the setting, the universe is currently on fire and there are no extinguishers. So it's like,
gotcha.
How much of an effect chaos has also depends heavily on which specific time frame you're looking at. And so I guess for me, going into most of these, I'm going through it with the mindset that it is modern, yeah.
Yeah. Well, basically, what it seems like when it comes to 40k is you either use a character who's basically like regular soldier level and that can't build his power past a certain point, or if you are to a point where you're a major threat to the universe as a whole, you're instantly run into the Chaos Gods, basically.
So there's exclusively 3 end states in Warhammer. Either you can't do it, you're in an eternal stalemate, or you rewrite the universe, and there's nothing else really that can necessarily go on. If you're talking about individual factions, it gets more nuanced, but if you're talking about the universe as a whole, that's like the 3 hard stops. It's either you can't do it, you're going to be Doomguying it forever, or you just Alien X rewrite the whole thing.
Okay. Yeah, because I have I got characters on here. Like another characters that you picked was not character of faction, was the Viltrumites.
Yeah.
It's like so the Viltrumites are some of them are planet destroyers. So if you have an army of people who go from everywhere from being able to destroy islands and moons and shit to destroying whole planets by themselves.
Yeah, they just like punch through a planet.
Yeah, you get to a point where like the Chaos Gods aren't just going to ignore this planet destroying faction, right? Like they can individually conquer whole planets by themselves. They're going to get the attention of the Chaos Gods and basically be not necessarily halted, but they're not going to be...
Firstly, they'd probably be corrupted more than anything, because they would just... I think they would all go to corn very quickly with how genocidal and like megalomaniacal. I don't know how the fuck to say that word. With how crazy they are, they would just probably go to corn. I talked about this when I talked about Viltrumites in my video. I mainly put them up against the Imperium, which is like the only thing in the Imperium that's stopping them is like man-made. If they can make it a super disease, like I forget what it's called, but the virus that is invincible that like killed most of their population, or really strong psychers and stuff like that, like the Emperor, who could mentally fuck them up. But physically, they could dominate most of the factions in Warhammer pretty easily. But the thing with like Chaos is like you get to something like Nurgle, and you get to the same thing with diseases, where like Nurgle has magical aids that he'll give you, and you can't really do anything against it. Like even the most powerful Space Marines and stuff get taken out by magical aids because there is no defense for it, right? Like it's just you either have the ability to withstand it or you don't, and that's kind of where we're getting soft locked by Chaos, because Chaos is just stupid bullshit, wacko mode.
So when you talk about characters to this certain power level, you basically have to cut you basically have to ignore certain aspects of the universe, or else you can't really do the conversation. You can have them
you could throw them,
have them the Imperium, but you kind of have to forget that Chaos even exists.
Yeah, like that's why like I threw them at the Imperium, because like you have stuff that they're on par with within the Imperium. Like there are characters like Primarchs who hold who have massive strengths of feet, like Magnus the Red has split planets on his own and stuff like that too. And then you have characters like the Custodes, who are kind of like super space marines that are like able to, they can't move, but they can perceive like at the speed of light. And they could come close, maybe, to like fighting a Viltrumite or something like that. Stuff like the Emperor, of course. But like a lot of the other factions and everything, and especially once you get to Chaos, you start running into like magical bullshit, which is something very specifically that doesn't really come up in Invincible. Or you get stuff like the Necrons, who like the Necrons, the Terminators, their main infantry gun. They're not guns, they're not plasma guns. What they do is their infantry has it's basically a really complex portal gun that just opens a portal to the nearest star and then puts it out at the barrel of their gun. So they're basically just bringing a little bit of the nearest star to you. And it's like, you see in Invincible a lot that Viltrumites have a hard time with like atomization type stuff, like the atomizing ray, or like getting thrown into a literal sun. So it's like if you have stuff like that, like the Necrons who can atomize, like that's their whole technology, is like stuff that, you know, deletes you at the atomic level, or just shoots you with a star. That's where they would start to fall apart at. Before, if You're not talking about if you remove chaos from that equation. Okay. But then it's also even worse if you throw something at like, say like the Tyranids, who constantly evolve and like use the DNA of their enemies. So like you would basically get to a point like Doomsday, Superman Doomsday, where like you would have one Viltrumite go and take down like a Tyranid tendril fleet or something like that. But if they even like cut him, if they even get like a taste of blood, the next Tyranid fleet that comes are gonna come with the strength of a Viltrumite. And then you're just fucked.
Oh, so they're basically like Nightmare, where they can just copy powers, basically?
They don't copy powers, they eat genetic information. So they will just devour things, and then like evolve. So they will also evolve to counter specific things. So like if they land on a planet that's snowy, they will evolve to have more fat, so they can, you know, survive in cold climates and stuff like that.
Okay, so they would be able to affect. So okay, I get what you're saying. So they would have been able to evolve with Kazuya because he has genetic material, but not to Nightmare because Nightmare doesn't have any genetic material. He's just like a fucking spirit presence thing.
Well, that too, basically. But I also don't I don't know how you would like. They can't. They have this weird ability to evolve to like magical things. Like they evolved the ability to overwhelm Psychers and use the warp in that way, but they like can't straight up like steal magic as well. Like if they ate Kaz, I think it would be the same as like just eating a regular human, I would think.
Okay. Like higher than normal physical power, basically.
Yeah, they could take his genetics and make some extra beefy Tyranids, probably, yeah.
Alright. So I got way more on this list, but how many more you want to do? You want to do one more, two more? You want to keep going?
I think that will actually probably have to wrap us up because it's already a fair bit past midnight for me.
Okay.
And if we keep going, I'm going to collapse on my desk.
I kind of figured it's midnight for me, and I figured it was a little later for you. Okay, no, that's fine. Yeah, this was. Thanks for coming on. This was fun.
Hey, if I get the hankering, maybe I'll come back for a part 2. We'll see.
Yeah. Also, I mean, hey, I also don't know shit about Destiny. So if you want to come on and we talk about Destiny,
we can do that next. That one is so much more stupid. It's so much dumber.
The stupider, the better. Those are the
and
best
the fan base is
about.
Extra dumb. Like
it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great if we.
I don't want to get too into it. Like one of my arguments, I did like a big Warhammer versus Destiny thing entirely, and I did like take all the Imperium and throw them at Destiny's villains, and throw the Guardians and throw them at all Warhammer's villains, and then like I did that right before Destiny 2 got its final. Like the video went up 4 days before Destiny 2's final expansion, and in that expansion you kill like the, you know, like the demon incarnate of darkness or whatever. And everyone like flooded the comments with like, "Hey, but the Guardians actually killed the darkness. They like did it. They did it. They're strong. Can't you see?" And it's like, well, no. Well, there's like this really specific set of circumstances and plot armor and all this other stuff. You can't just say they killed the darkness because they didn't just kill the darkness. They had plot armor on their side. Like it's not that simple.
Yeah. Well, actually, a lot of people, pretty much everybody talks about Warhammer 40K versus Doomguy and shit. But honestly, I've always thought the Doom universe against Destiny was like a closer fight. Like Doomguy and the demons, I think, would slaughter through the vast majority of Warhammer 40K until they got to the Chaos Gods and they would run into problems.
Yeah,
Don't
which
think
is
that's
how a lot of
necessarily-
things would run.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily the case for Destiny. It seems like the Guardians would do a damn decent job against a lot of the demons, and possibly Doomguy. I don't know enough about Destiny to really say, but I personally, based on what I've heard, I think Doomguy is stronger than they are, but I don't necessarily think that would be the easiest of fights if that did happen. So again, that I can always bring you back, and that could be a future conversation or whatever.
Yeah, I could be here talking about Destiny all fucking night long. I guess that'll have to be saved for a return if I find the time.
I got you. Yeah, no, we'll schedule it sometime in the future. Just tell everybody who you are, where they can find you. Do your little outro.
I have been Buster McTunder. You can find me on YouTube, and you could go on Twitch. I don't really use Twitch all that often, but YouTube's the main place. YouTube. Do a lot of the same kind of stuff, versus type stuff, as well as like writing type stuff. I like talking about the ways that different writing works. Like I go into different genres, like cyberpunk and stuff like that. That's about it. You can actually go and find on the Buster McTunder channel. If I am going to shill something, I'm going to shill something that's for a good cause. If you go to the Buster McTunder channel, you can find both merchandise for something called the Colorful World, and for No Hesitation, which are both two different charity merch drives. If you go over to the channel and you buy one of those, 100% of the proceeds from all that merchandise gets donated to my local food bank. So go, if you're not going to come subscribe or do anything like that, help me give food to people and feed people that need it. And
that's so nice. I just keep the money. I'm not as selfless.
I mean, I'm set enough. Like, I'm doing YouTube as a hobby right now. Like, I make some money on the side from it, whatever. I don't really care. I've given most of that to the same food bank. And like merch, it cost me nothing to set up a spring store. So I was like, fuck it. If anyone wants to buy this, I designed it all myself. I put it up all in that store. It's, it's actually, like really good quality stuff. I bought a few of them for myself. They're really soft. And every single dollar that I make from that, I just send it right to the charity.
And in all seriousness, I did check out the store because I was curious as to how exactly that worked out. That's really cool that you're doing that for charity. But so check out him, see what his stuff's all about. It's far more structured and professional than my stuff for sure. So go over there if you're interested in that kind of stuff. And that's gonna be all for today. Hope you guys liked the video. If you did, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, and join the membership. If you join the membership, you will get videos early. And always remember, y'all stay safe out there. You hear?